Chapter 3730? Second more. Hitomi has been in the 3 battlefields for so many years. He is the master and he has faced many times. But relying on his own strength and his strongest treasure, the high masters couldn't help him, and it was difficult to hurt him. But Jian Wushuang just had that sword, so that Master Tong understands that Jian Wushuang's strongest combat power is definitely more than most advanced masters. Only the top talents in advanced masters can burst out of that kind of power to defeat him. At the same time as the offensive, he was injured through the strongest treasure. Such strength is enough to make Tong Zuxin's heart afraid. Unlike the pupil Zhu and the shock in the hearts of everyone present, Jian Wushuang saw his pupil vomiting blood, but his frown was slightly frowned. He didn't expect that he showed the strongest strength and showed the strongest sword, but the result was just barely letting the pupil to vomit blood, and it did not let the pupil to lose much power. The strongest treasure battle gear, it is unusually peak. The treasure warframe can be compared. Jian Wushuang secretly said. He knew that if the pupil had no strongest armor, but only the highest peak armor, then the sword he had just cast with the Huangquan Excalibur would definitely cause him to be severely wounded. 10% or 20% of the divine power, but the divine power of the pupil is now very small. There is the strongest armor of the treasure warrior, and I alone can't kill him. Jian Wushuang understood this, but followed with a cold hum. Even if he can't kill, he must be taught fiercely. The sword has no double-sided capacity and is cold, carrying the mighty power, and shot again. To this pupil, Jian Wushuang has a trace of disgust. As the master, he doesn't care about his own identity, and in this area of the star, he arbitrarily shoots against the ruler even without reason. People who are totally disregarded for their looks will be spurned. What's more, this pupil is not the first time to provoke the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang has seen the information before. This pupil has made several shots against the strong men of the Star Palace in the 3 battlefields over the years. The Xingong planted a follow-up once and paid a great price. It's just that because this pupil is strong and has the strongest treasure armor, Star Palace has always been unable to take him. He can only be angry and dare not speak, but he does not want this pupil to become stronger. This time in the Red Cloud realm, he also stared at the master of the idiot, and almost made the 2 of the Xingong's 6 extremes, losing 1. So again and again to oppress Xingong, Jian Wushuang now has the ability, of course, to give this pupil a profound lesson. Even if he can't kill him, at least it is necessary for Master Tong to remember this lesson. In the future in the Red Cloud realm, including when fighting in the 3 major battlefields, when he meets the strong man in his star house, he will have a little bit of scruples and dare wanton killer. Jian Wushuang broke out with all his strength. Although he had been fighting with Hitomi before, he never used the willpower given by the laws of the universe, nor did he fully exert his sword skills. But now, the sword unparalleled under full force, the displayed combat power can only be described as sturdy or terrible. His divine power is powerful. His sword art is extremely mysterious, and the origin of Kendo universe in each sword is extremely strong. Although the pupil also burst out with all his strength, he fought against Jian Wushuang, but was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang. One side, anyone with a good eye can see that Hitomi is not Jian Shuang's opponent at all. It's too strong, he's too powerful. His divine power is definitely higher-level dominance. It is stronger than ordinary high-level dominions, and much stronger than me. His swordsmanship is even more terrifying. His understanding of Kendo is much higher than all the Kendo strongmen I have seen. The origin of Kendo, yes, he has entered the origin of Kendo universe, and every sword he casts. They all contain the rich origins of Kendo universe. When the swordplay is performed, it is not only extremely powerful, but also extremely mysterious, which is not comparable to me at all. Perseverance is comparable to the divine power of a higher master. In addition, in his opinion, even the top master may not be comparable to the Kendo understanding of Jian Wushuang. This has created Jian Wushuang's terrible strength. This strength, in the higher among the masters, it is definitely the best. The pupil is totally unable to compete. It's better to go first. After a short fight, Hitomi was completely scared by Jian Wushuang's strength. Naturally, he had no intention of continuing to fight against Jian Wushuang. Although there is something in Jian Wushuang's body that makes him extremely crazy for special treasures, this thing, with his current strength, must not be available to him. He had to leave first and then think of something else. The pupil master wanted to leave, but Jian Wushuang did not intend to let him go. Magic Sand Realm. With a big wave of the sword, the endless black mad sand rolled up frantically, and in the blink of an eye, a huge black sand sea formed, covering the entire sky and the void. The body of that pupil is also covered by this black sand sea. Domina Category Treasure? Look at this breath, it is the Peak Domain Category Treasure. Hitomi was surprised. Realm Class Treasures, among many treasures of the same level, are even extremely precious. And the peak value of the Field Category Arcana, even if compared with the strongest arcana, the value is not too much. Although he is the master, and because of some special reasons, he has accumulated 2 years of strongest treasures, one for attacking, and one of the strongest treasures for the accumulation of long years. Unexpectedly, the master of this rule, Jian Wushuang, not only has the strongest attacking soldiers, but also has the highest level of treasure in his hands? The pupil master does not know, although Jian Wushuang is the rule master, this is not false. But at the beginning of the world, he beheaded and killed 3 masters, and those 3 masters came from the second-level astral magic cloud star. The net worth is extraordinary. This top-level domain is the treasure that Jian Wushuang obtained from one of the masters. It is a ring named Masha Ring. Jian Wushuang has recognized the Masha Ring long ago. When Shi unfolded, a huge magic sand ocean formed instantly, oppressing everything. The pupil was trapped in the sea of magic sand, and was greatly suppressed at the first time. His body speed was greatly weakened, and his overall strength was suppressed a lot. The Lord of the Blood Sword, this seat is about to leave. You must not deceive people too much. Tong Tong felt annoyed when he noticed that the surrounding magic sand ocean was suppressing himself. Too much bullying? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. I already said, don't surrender the 3 peak jewels for reparations. You just leave it so simple. End of this chapter. Chapter 37-31? The first is here. Kill. Relying on the oppression of Hitomi in the realm of magic sand, Jian Wushuang came to Hitomi again. The fierce Jianguang, with unstoppable momentum, continued to crush towards Hitomi. The pupil can only resist reluctantly, but it is more and more difficult. Under the suppression of the magic sand field, it is obviously impossible for him to leave from the front of the sword without 2 sides by normal means. The Lord of the Blood Sword, this time you counted you as fierce, this seat will remember you. Hitomi shouted with gritted teeth, followed by a sudden burst of blood and blood on him. Bang rong. The main body of Hitomi is agitated and the volume is larger than before, but the breath of divine power emanating from him is obviously weakened. Call out. A burst of blood flashed out abruptly, leaving a shadow of blood in the void. The main figure of Hitomi rushed out of the area covered by this magic sand field, and soon disappeared into the sight of Jian Wushuang. Have you escaped? Jian Wu's eyes flickered a little, but not surprised. He is very clear that his strength reaches the level of Hitomi, and it is completely impossible to kill him alone. And Hitomi is wantonly in this star field for so many years, the number of offending powers is countless, but he arrives they are still alive and well, naturally they have life-saving cards. Just now, the pupil is obviously performing a life-saving mystery, and this time he left directly. It's not bad to be able to force him to perform life-saving secrets. Jian Wushuang smiled, and the masters of the many rules watching the surroundings saw the pupils turn into blood and left, and they all booed. Escape, Hitomi, he even managed to escape by using his life-saving technique? Well, domineering but also a very powerful master, but facing a ruler today, he can only use life-saving techniques to escape? This is too ridiculous. Indeed, in this battle, Hitomi has really lost his face. As for the master of the blood sword, he has crushed Hitomi positively in a state of rule, and forced Hitomi to use only life-saving techniques to escape. The record is enough to be proud of this star field. From today, I am afraid that the reputation of the Lord of the Blood Sword will reach a new peak. Around the battlefield, the eyes of many rulers were staring at Jian Wushuang tightly. In that look, in addition to shock and awe, there was even a touch of worship. You know, they are all rulers. It's respectful to see the Lord on weekdays, but the dignified Lord that the Lord of the Blood Sword can fight can only use life-saving secrets to escape. How can we not let these rulers worship? In the middle of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang has taken Huang Quan's Excalibur back to the scabbard, and the ghost of the bones and the idiot have also come to Jian Wushuang. The Giantian Ho, you can really surprise my husband today. The ghostly ghost has a hearty smile on his face, his tiny eyes narrowed slightly, and a strange color flickered. Although the husband is also a rule lord, but in the face of the master, you can only rely on some special means to protect yourself, and a master you can kill can only use the life-saving mystery to escape. Oh, terrific, terrific. Even if it's a ghost, I can't help but praise it. Mengu's predecessor is polite. In fact, my strength is not much stronger than that of the pupil. He has the strongest armor of the treasure. Even if he does not escape, he will stay and fight with me. I can't kill him. Jian Wushuang laughed. That's the story, but you're still amazing. Gu Guaiguai said. Yes, a ruler can do this step. I'm afraid that in the history of this star field, you are the first person in the Blood Sword Master. The idiot master couldn't help it. The first person in history? Jian Wushuang shook his head. Others don't know, but he is very clear. His master Xian Yi, when he was the ruler of the rule, relied on the town monument. The combat power was comparable to the top master. However, his current combat power is still relatively strong among the higher masters, but it is still far worse than the top masters. Mingu, thank you for your shot this time. If you did stop your pupil for a while, I am afraid that the idiot master has already died in the pupil's hands. When I arrive, the pupil may be too early. I got the treasure and left. Jian Wushuangdo. It's just a hand-raising work, not enough to talk about. Not to mention that the old man also got a top-tier treasure armor from the master of that pupil, which can be considered a small gain. The bone monster laughed casually. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang also knows something about the old bones. Although he is not a person in the Xingong Palace, he is from the early world of God. And he also knew the ultimate secrets of the divine realm in the beginning of the early days, so the Wraith and the Sword Palace and the Sword Unparalleled themselves are naturally in the same camp. Because of this, in the early world of the gods, the ghostly monsters will help this time and again. This time in the Red Cloud realm, the ghost bone monster saw the threat of the idiot of the Xingong Palace, and also directly assisted. By the way, Senior Soul Bone, are you alone in this Red Cloud world? What about the Meteorite King? Jian Wushuang asked. The Meteorite King is the master that Jian Wushuang saw in the early world of the gods. He is a friend of the old bones and has a relationship with Jian Wushuang. Meteorite has also come to the Red Cloud realm, but you also know that there are 7 continents in the Red Cloud realm. Although the old man and him entered the Red Cloud realm at the same time, they have already dispersed. He is now on the first continent. Vandalism, the old man is in this third continent. Wugui strange. Is that so? Sword Unparalleled. Jian Tianho, do you think that the pupil's behavior this time is a little weird? The ghost bone monster suddenly asked. Strange. Jian Wushuang frowned and said subconsciously, in this star field, Master Tong is a well-known faceless and unreasonable person. He is only profitable, and he sees that the master of the idiot has got a top realm category treasure. Heart rises greedily and rushes to snatch, which does not seem to be wrong. In the years that Master Tong has been in the 3 major battlefields, because there are many examples of treasures shooting against the ruler, his shots against the master of the idiot this time seem to be normal. The old man just thought that when he gave me the top Arcana Warframe, it was a bit more refreshing, but it may also be because he liked the clean fire array of the idiot master, so he handed over one so easily. Top Arcana Warframe. The ghost bones also think that they may have thought more, and they have not continued to struggle with this problem. Jian Tianho, when the incident is over, the old man will leave. The ghostly bone monster soon left with Jian Wushuang. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 37-32? Second more. After the ghost bones left, the battlefield void left only the two masters, Jian Wushuang and Gu Qi. Gu Qi, thank the Lord of the Blood Sword for his life-saving grace. You are the master of the rules of my star house, and I should save you. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, but the master of the idiot, this time because I'm not too far away from you, and coupled with the seniors of the bones shot midway you will be able to support me to come, but if I encounter such a crisis next time, I may not be able to catch up. So you must be careful when you are in the Red Cloud realm in the future. After all, there are a lot of masters here. Although you have the ultimate combat power of the 6 realms and the protection of the net of fire, but the master level, if the strongest of them can shoot with all their strength, they can still kill you. If you die, my star palace will go to 1 or 6 realms of extreme combat power, which is a trivial loss. I understand. The master of Gu Qi focused his head. He was a little too confident in the beginning, to be precise, to underestimate him. He thought that he had the guard of the pure fire method. Even if the master-level strong shot himself, he might not be able to kill him. So before the pupil arrived, and asked him to hand over the top realm of treasure, he was out of selfishness, unwilling to surrender. But he almost died. And if he honestly handed over the top field class treasure from the beginning, it may not be the next thing. Of course, this is also because they don't know the real intention of the pupil. In short, everything is important. Supreme treasure is important, but your life is worth more than precious treasure. Jian Wushuang urged again before leaving. The sword Wushuang has gone, and the rulers who have been around the battlefield have also dispersed. Immediately after dispersing, the rulers of these rules immediately informed the forces, astral planes, or friends of each other of the battle they had just seen. 10 to 10, 100 to 10, not long after, many powerful people in this star domain all know the shocking world war. For a time, countless strong people in this star field shook it. No way, this battle is too amazing. It can even be said that it was a bit strange. Who is Hitomi? That is the vertical and horizontal star field, which has caused many powerful people to suffer. It can be said that the super character has been running in this star field. His strength cannot be said to be too strong among the masters. After all, he cannot be said to be a true higher master, but the key is that he has many treasures and means. He has the strongest attacking soldier of the treasure, and the strongest armor of the strongest treasure. This alone is destined that the high master can't help him. There were more than one high-level masters who had shot, not to kill him, but just to give him a lesson, but those high-level masters could not do it. Because even a high master can hardly hurt him. Only the top masters are eligible to let the pupils bow their heads, but only just bow their heads. If the top master comes to kill him personally, he may not be able to kill him. And this is a superhero. This time, he has planted a big heel. Planted in the hands of Jian Wushuang, the ruler of every rule. The dignified pupil hit the front and was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang, even under Jian Wushuang's one sword. While defeating the main attack of Tong, he also vomited blood. In the end, the pupil was forced to use his life-saving mystery to escape. What strength is this? High Master, the Lord of the Blood Sword, at least has the power of the High Master. The High Master is sure, and it seems that his combat power is very strong even among the High Masters. It belongs to the top group, and only then can he fight the strongest treasure of the front. The pupil of the protector vomits blood. The Lord of the Blood Sword, what is going on? Isn't he the Lord of the Rules? How could the power be so terrible? He is indeed still the main level of rules. There is no doubt that as to why he is so strong, it is unknown, but not surprisingly, it may be related to his special opportunity in life and death. Yes, the Lord of the Blood Sword was originally not very famous, and the strength of the Lord of the Rules was not very strong, but because he had stayed in the territory of life and death for nearly 100,000 years, he came out as himself. The force directly defeated the 5 strongest players in the 6 realms, and became the strongest among the masters of the rules of the astral domain, but now it has not passed for more than 10,000 years, and his combat power has even surpassed the high. No doubt, he must have gotten an incredible chance in that life and death. The question is, what did he get in life and death? Who knows, after all, after this war, I can no longer treat the Lord of the Blood Sword as the ruler of the rule. He must be treated as the master, even the higher master. In this star field, countless strong people were shaken by the amazing strength revealed by Jian Wushuang. Countless strong people have fallen into sensation because of Jian Wushuang's record. Countless strong men are madly discussing this matter, discussing Jian Wushuang. The name of the Lord of the Blood Swords, after another 10,000 years, smashed the entire star field again. The difference is that his record this time is far more brilliant than last time, and the sensation caused by it is naturally greater. Within the red clouds. Jian Tianho, congratulations, this time you are really famous for this star field. The Celestial Alliance master laughed and passed over the news. Heavenly friend, he has long been famous in this star field, but this time he made a bigger movement and a bigger sensation. A ruler, but the pupil who killed it, fled his head and fled. Now this star field, I am afraid that all the masters of you already know that you exist, and they will remember you, and they will never dare to treat you in the future. No, I was a strong master in the 3 major battlefields before www. Novel, and will now deliberately call me to ask about you. The Master of Time and Space also preached. Received a message from the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space. Jian Wushuang only smiled slightly. He knew that since he had shot it, it would inevitably cause a lot of movement in this star field. He had already been mentally prepared for this. Unfortunately, I originally planned to wait until the next time the strongest arcana shot was taken, and then tried my best to fight for it. This might allow me to take advantage of it and also beat those who had robbed me of arcana. I was caught off guard. A pupil, my strength was exposed in advance. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly, but he didn't care too much. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 37-33? The first is here. When it is exposed, it is exposed. It is nothing more than a loss of some opportunities. It is not a big deal. The only thing that is more regrettable is that although I have made Mr. Hitomi a follower this time, what I have said is that I lost only some faces and a top-level treasure. This loss is not much to Mr. Hitomi. It is not enough to make the pupil really distressed, and it is estimated that he will not have much fear. And if this time did not make Mr. Hitomi afraid of him, then Mr. Hitomi will inevitably not wait for the opportunity to take revenge. Although Jian Wushuang himself would not care about Hitomi's revenge, Xing Gong cares. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang did not think about it. Tianho Xiaoyu, do you still plan to go to that sword stone to enlighten you? The Lord of Time and Space asked suddenly. Well, Jian Wushuang nodded. The sword art contained in that sword stone is extremely exquisite, but my help is very great. That being the case, then you can continue to enlighten you, and if the strongest treasure in the Red Cloud realm is born, we will send you a message to inform you. Okay. Jian Wushuang answered. It didn't take long for Jian Wushuang to return to Jianshi again. Because he left before, the position that originally belonged to him closest to the sword stone was already occupied by others, but Jian Wushuang's strength was placed there. As soon as he showed up, the other party immediately obeyed, and Jian Wushuang sat down in front of the sword. And then continued to fall into the enlightenment of the 4th sword art in sword stone. In a flash, 3,000 years have passed. In these 3,000 years, the number of precious treasures born in the Red Cloud realm is countless. Even the strongest precious treasures have been born, a total of 3. However, these 3 strongest treasures were all just attacking the magic soldier, and were finally obtained by 3 different masters. As for the Lord of Time and Space and the Lord of the Heavens and the Alliance, in the 3,000 years, each of the top treasures got 1, but the strongest treasure did not. This is also their bad luck. The 3 born were the strongest treasures, and only 1 was born on the 6th continent of Zhetian Alliance, but the place of birth was extremely far away from the place of Xiantian alliance. But when the Xiantian alliance arrived, the strongest treasure has already fallen into the hands of a terrible high-level master, and it is natural that the Lord of the Sky can no longer compete. In these 3,000 years, the third continent seemed relatively calm, and no strongest treasure was born. It was only the peak of the highest treasure that was born. Although it also caused fierce battles, it did not reach the battle between the powerful and the dead. To the point. As for Jian Wushuang, in the past 3,000 years, he has been staying in front of the sword stone, and has been studying the fourth sword technique contained in that sword stone, so as to perfect his protection of the earth. After more than 3,000 years of enlightenment, his understanding of Kendo has been improved, and the origin of Kendo universe can be more. The most important thing is the protection of the earth. With his continuous improvement, and finally reached its limit. Almost. Under Jian Shi, Jian Wushuang's eyes have opened again. After more than 3,000 years of enlightenment, countless deductions in my mind, I have already perfected the trick of guardian of the earth to the extreme that I can achieve now. Even if the sword technique contained in this sword stone is to me it's still unpredictable, but I see NT continue to improve. Jian Wushuang secretly said. In the deduction of the protection of the earth, he has indeed reached the extreme. If you want to make further progress and continue to improve, it is very difficult to rely on the sword technique in the sword stone. He must first improve his understanding of Kendo. As the Kendo understanding becomes higher and higher, can continue to improve. But we must know that Jian Wushuang's current understanding of Kendo is actually very high, and has long exceeded the normal level of domination. Based on this foundation, the protection of the earth, the sword of the encouraging body, has been deduced to the extreme. How defensive will this sword be? Jian Wushuang did not know, but he had a bottom. At least the average elementary, even the high master, could not defeat him in this sword. As for whether the top dominator can be defeated directly, it is unknown. Before me, although swordplay was pretty good, but all I was good at was attacking and killing swordplay. If I met a strong man with similar strength, swordplay like me could occupy some advantages, but if I encountered that kind of strength I, the mighty one who is far above me, will not be of much use to my sword skills. But now, with the trick of guarding the earth, even if I meet a strong person whose power is far above me, although I can't beat him, the other party wants to completely crush me, I'm afraid it's not so easy now. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. After 3,000 years of enlightenment under this sword stone, it seems that his strength has not been much improved, but in fact, these 3,000 years of enlightenment have made him perfect the trick of guarding the earth, which makes his sword skills become more perfect than before. In the future, he can attack and defend with swordsmanship. Whether he encounters similar strengths or meets stronger ones, he can handle them. This gain is even more rare than his ability to make progress. I have to thank those who left words on this sword stone. Jian Wushuang looked at the sword stone in front of him. On the sword stone, the 4 huge golden characters exude an extremely ancient and special atmosphere. Each of the 4 golden characters contains an inscrutable sword technique. For more than 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang has only comprehended one of them, that is, the sword of body protection. But in fact, the other 3 attack swordsmanship are equally incomparable, but unfortunately Jian Wushuang did not intend to continue enlightenment. I have been enlightened under this sword stone for so many years, and I have already harvested enough. I should also be satisfied. The Red Cloud Realm has only been opened for 10,000 years after all. I have to stay in this Red Cloud Realm for the rest of the time. Breakthrough. Jian Wushuang chuckled. If he was outside and had enough time, he wouldn't mind continuing to enlighten. But here is after all in the Red Cloud Realm, there are many opportunities in the Red Cloud Realm, but not only this kind of sword stone. Jian Wushuang naturally cannot spend all the time on the enlightenment of swordsmanship in this sword stone. Leave it. Jian Wushuang stood up, looked at the sword stone at last, and then immediately turned to leave. But he just turned around. Hum! A majestic breath suddenly burst out from the surrounding void. This breath of treasure is so powerful that it sweeps all directions almost instantly. In this huge world, time began to tremble. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL. Chapter 3734? Second more. The sudden outbreak of the treasure atmosphere naturally attracted Jian Wushuang for the first time, as well as the masters of nearly 100 rules of Kendo who came to enlighten Kendo before this sword stone. Suddenly, all the rulers of the hundreds rose up. Jian Wushuang also looked up, looking at the source of the most precious breath. It was very close to where he was, very close. With the willful release of his soul power, he instantly covered a 100,000-mile radius, but less than 50,000 miles directly in front of him. The source of the treasure breath, Jian Wushuang saw a heavy appearance in the center of the earth. There was a huge blood-colored vortex, and in that blood-colored vortex, there were a pair of dark-colored moran wings, which were slowly extending out. Wings? Flying class treasure? And this breath. Even if it was Jian Wushuang, when you felt the precious breath from the black wings and the great movement around it, you could no longer suppress the inner shock and surprise. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang immediately burst out at the fastest speed, rushing towards the location of the black wing. Not only him, but at the same time, the hundreds of rulers who had come to enlighten Kendo before this sword stone all swarmed towards the location of the black wings like a wasp. However, Jian Wushuang's speed was obviously much faster than the general rule, and soon he came to the void around the huge blood swirl. And he was also the first person to come here. Standing in the void around the blood swirl, Jian Wushuang's eyes were like electricity, staring at the black wings slowly emerging from the blood swirl, his body trembling with excitement. Sure enough, it really is the strongest treasure. The sword Wushuang held both hands fiercely. The strongest cosmic treasure, but also a flying treasure like the wings? You should know that among all cosmic treasures, the value of this treasure is naturally different because the role of each species is different. One of the strongest cosmic treasures is undoubtedly enough to cause the masters to frantically compete. And one of the most powerful universe arcana warframe is enough to make many masters crazy, regardless of it. But now, the black wings that emerged from the vortex appearing in front of the sword without double sides are obviously one of the strongest flying treasures. Flying class. On the value, it is even higher than Arcana Warframe, and it can be comparable to the strongest domain Arcana. Such a treasure, if not born in this red cloud world, but placed elsewhere in this star field, is enough to cause a sensation throughout the star field. I am the first person to come around this black wing, but unfortunately, this wing has not yet been completely born. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In this world of red clouds, the birth of Jibao requires a certain period of time to brew. And this black wing is the strongest flying class treasure, and it is not unexpected that it will be born longer. Although he is the first to arrive here now, I'm afraid it won't be long before a large number of strong men arrive. Anyway, we must find a way to get this wing. Jian Wu's eyes were hot, and he immediately came up with a summons order. Cut the sky, time and space. I have the strongest flying class Jibao born here, and it is just around me. I was the first to arrive at the scene of Jibao born. Jian Wushuang rumored. What? The strongest flying class treasure? The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time immediately shook. After the shock, there was an unprecedented ecstasy. Jian Tianhou, the strongest flying treasure is even more precious than the strongest treasure, and if you can get such a treasure, then the 3 of us can be regarded as a worthwhile trip in this red cloud world. Now, you have to find a way to get the strongest flying class treasure. The Celestial Alliance leader excited. Yes, the strongest flying treasure is too important. If you have one of these treasures in the future, your life-saving ability will definitely be upgraded to a whole new level. Even if the Lord of the Devil Star arrives in person in the future, it may not be I have the absolute certainty to kill you. The Lord of Time and Space was also very excited. I know, but this flying class, the strongest treasure, is so precious. It will certainly be extremely fierce when I compete for it. I don't know if I can get it, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. It is not that he is not confident. But the strongest flying class treasure is too precious, enough to cause the masters to lose their minds, let alone the masters of those rules. And the strongest flying class Jibao must have been born for a long time, coupled with the large movements, it must attract more powerful people. The dominant power on this third continent will probably be alarmed. In this environment, it is really not easy to get the strongest flying treasure. Besides, even if he is lucky, he can really keep the strongest flying class treasure and can really keep it, it is still a question. No matter what, you first try to get the flying strongest treasure, and I and Jatian will come to your third continent at the fastest speed. Jatian is farther away from you, and may be a bit more diffused, but in my case, it can be reached in half a day. Okay. The sword has no double focus. The master of Space-Time Palace Sword Wushuang knows about time and space. If he is by his side, at least he will be more convenient to escape. Of course, all this is empty talk now. After all, the black wings have not really been born, and he has not really got the black wings. At this moment, attracted by the movement of the birth of the black feathers, more than 200 strong men rushed to the periphery of this vortex. The main reason is that the place where the black feathers were born was too close to the sword stone. The black feathers were born, and the news spread out. Almost all the rulers of the rule below the sword stone arrived. When they arrived, they naturally saw the level of the black wings for the first time. The strongest treasure, this breath is definitely the strongest treasure. Black wings, this is the strongest flying treasure. The strongest treasure is still an extremely rare flying class, Around the bloody vortex the masters of more than 200 rules have all turned red. Under those red eyes, the desire and madness were all entrained. At the same time, the rulers of these rules immediately conveyed this matter to the powerful men who can reach the fastest speed on this third continent. For a time, the entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud realm shook completely. I recommend a very good book for everyone, meticulously written. I am not an ordinary person. Be sure to remember to read it. Wonderful cannot miss it. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL. Chapter 37-35? The first is here. The strongest treasure is precious. The strongest flying treasure is even more crazy. When I learned that the strongest flying class was born, many of the strongest people on this third continent were crazy. Countless powerful people, including those who rushed on the third continent, dominated, regardless of the distance from the place of birth or the nearest, quickly rushed over. For a while, the vortex had become the focus of the entire Red Cloud world. The speed at which the black feathers were born was too slow. Although Jian Wushuang was the first to arrive at this birthplace, as time passed, when the black wings broke out of the vortex by 2/3, there were already more than 500 strong men gathered around. More than 500 people, although all rulers, are difficult to pose a threat to Jian Wushuang, but the number of them is there, and Jian Wushuang cannot be completely ignored. Moreover, the black wing has not yet been completely born, and there is still a steady stream of powerful people arriving from all sides. Although Jian Wushuang is only a ruler, there is no doubt that he is definitely the focus of all rulers present. The Lord of the Blood Sword. Damn, the Lord of the Blood Sword is here, and now it's very difficult for us to fight for the black wings. Well, even if the Lord of the Blood Sword is as powerful as the Lord, he will definitely not be able to get the black wings later. Every now and then strange eyes glanced from the sword Wushuangshan from time to time. There are more than 500 rulers who are present at the scene, and their strengths are strong and weak. But everyone knows that Sword Wushuang is the most terrifying existence among them. After the black wings are completely born, they will be the biggest threat to the rulers. The Lord of these rules is very vigilant to me. Jian Wushuang noticed those eyes around him, and his eyes couldn't help narrowing. No way, before fighting with Hitomi to make him famous. Now everyone knows that his combat power can be comparable to that of the master, or even a higher master, which is by no means comparable to the rule of the master. Under the premise that everyone present is only the ruler, and no one has dominated the scene, he is naturally the most noticeable. It will be some time before the birth of that wing, although more powerful people will come here during this time, but if all the rulers come, and there is no one who dominates the class, then this Black Wings, I'm sure I can get my hands. I'm afraid I will be dominated by the master. Jian Wushuang frowned secretly. The ruler of the rule, unless it can burst out of the general dominating power in a short time like the Emperor Tutu, there is no more worry. Jian Wushuang is not worried. The ruler of these rules cannot stop him now. But it would be different if a dominating powerhouse was present. Okay. The sword has no sudden change of color on both sides. Damn, what are you afraid of? Jian Wushuang looked up and looked to the side of the void. The power of his soul had sensed an extremely powerful breath, and was coming at a terrible speed. Only momentarily appeared around the vortex, a golden figure slowly emerged. This is a tall man wearing a golden armor, boots, and a golden axe behind him. The tall man's narrow eyes had a faint golden light in his eyes. When he came to the periphery of the blood swirl, he looked at the black wings that were slowly breaking out from the core of the blood swirl. A trace of fanaticism. Axe. Dominated by the axe. He even came. The rulers around them saw a commotion immediately when they saw the people. Countless glances came at this golden figure, most of them with fear and awe. Dominated by the axe. In this star domain, he is also a high-profile master with great fame and strength. He is also a leader of one side of the power. I was just worried about the presence of a dominating powerhouse, and as a result, one came immediately and was still a high master. Watching the dominating axe dominate, the sword has no two-sided colors sinking slightly. A high master is already qualified to stop him. Not to mention that it is for the treasure. Even if it is a fierce battle, he has no absolute confidence that he can surpass the long-established bull axe in front of him. You know, the axe master has the name, because his axe is extremely overbearing and terrifying, and the power is also extremely arrogant. It seems my luck is pretty good. I live in this third continent, and there are as many as 6 or 7 people, and I was the first one to arrive at the place where this flying strongest treasure was born. The power of the master's soul also sweeps the surrounding void, and no other master's breath is sensed. However, although the master did not have a breath that could not be ignored, he still had one. Is this the kid, the Lord of the Blood Sword? The dominator's gaze stared at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang also looked at him. The two eyes collided, faintly generating electricity in the void, but that's it. That black wing hasn't really been born yet, and there are so many rulers around, it is naturally impossible for them to fight first. I heard that the Lord of the Blood Sword defeated Hitomi in the front, and forced Hitomi to run away. It is somewhat capable, but then Hitomi is just an elementary master, but I am different. The Lord of the Blood Sword, I hope you won't block my way later, otherwise. Ba-Ax sneered. He didn't know that the sword is unparalleled at the moment, and he had the same thought in his heart. The black wing that is about to be freed from the vortex is the strongest flying treasure. For this treasure, Jian Wushuang is also determined to obtain it. Even if the dominant axe dominated the scene, Jian Wushuang will not have the slightest fear, and will fight for it later. The dominant axe dominates his way, and Jian Wushuang will even draw his sword. At the bottom of the vortex, the black feathers have been exposed, and they will soon be completely born. And there are more than 700 rulers gathered here at this moment, and some of them are amazingly famous and powerful. Fortunately, in addition to dominating the axe dominance, there is no second dominance. Beside the blood-colored vortex, the eyes of more than 700 strong men stared at the bottom of the vortex, staring at the black wings. So everyone is waiting for the complete birth of the black wings. Finally, the last part of the black wing was freed from the swirl, and the whole black wing rose completely. At the same time, the breath of the strongest treasure was also swept away instantly. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jyotian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading UO. Dear, click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37-36? Second more. Born. At the moment when the black wing was completely freed from the vortex, More than 700 strong men were shaken around the vortex. Follow up. Ha. The crowds of figures moved almost at the same time. Hurry up. The strongest flying class is mine. Whoever dares to stop me will kill anyone. For this wing, fight. More than 700 rulers on the field madly rush towards the center of the vortex, that is, the black wings. Everyone burst out at their fastest speed, hoping that they would be the first to reach the black wing and put the black wing in the ring. As for the sword unparalleled, and the dominating axe on that side, it naturally moved for the first time. Jian Wushuang casts the shadowless puppet technique, and the strongest speed erupts completely. And at the moment he left. Magic Sand Realm. With a big wave of the sword, the endless black mad sand rolled up frantically, and in the blink of an eye, a huge black sand sea formed, covering the entire sky and the void. The void that is more than 10,000 miles away, including the most central vortex, is covered by black sand and sea, and naturally includes those rulers who rushed towards the black wings the first time. The terrible magic sand realm was oppressed, and the speed of all rulers who were present at the scene was greatly weakened. Peak in the top field. It is the magic sand realm of the Blood Sword Master. Damn, the suppression in this area is too strong. Those rulers were trapped in the realm of magic sand, and their speed decreased sharply, and their faces changed greatly. There are a few rulers who also take out the realm of treasure in their hands for the first time in an attempt to resist the impact of the magic sand realm. But we must know that the masters of these rules are the strongest in the 6 realms. What treasures can they have? It's not bad to have a top-class field treasure, but such a treasure, facing Jian Wushuang's magic sand field, does not have much resistance. As always, it is crushed and impacted. They still couldn't get back to their peak speed. However, among the many compulsions on the field, the only one that is not affected by the sword Wushuang magic sand field is dominated by the axe. The axe dominates, is the master, and is also a leader of one of the forces. He has many treasures in his hands. Although in the strongest treasure, there is only a golden axe in his hand, which can be the highest peak. He is almost all types of yes, he is also the owner of Pinnacle. I saw the vast blue sea of fire sweeping wildly, forming a blue sea of fire around the dominance of the dominating axe. This blue sea of fire released a terrifying atmosphere, colliding with the crazy impact of the black quicksand field cast by Jian Wushuang. For a while, there was no way to distinguish between strength and weakness. And because of the resistance of the blue sea of fire, the dominator's body was not subject to any oppression, and as the master, his speed was scary. At least, faster than Jian Wushuang. Not good. The sword has no double-sided colors suddenly changed. He also found that he is not as fast as this dominating axe. Now the two of them are rushing towards the black wings from almost the same distance at the same time, but if the dominating axe is not obstructed by anything else, he will definitely rush to the black wings before him. And once the black wings fell into the hands of the dominating axe, it was too difficult to get it. Humph! Jian Wu's eyes narrowed, and Huang Quan's Excalibur behind him instantly emerged. The icy black divine sword released the strongest treasure of Sinlung. The divine power of the sword unparalleled erupted instantly, and the magical power of life and the sky-cutting technique were also performed immediately. Even the share of the willpower given by the laws of the universe, Jian Wushuang did not use the slightest reservation at this moment. Spark burning sun. There was a flash of fierceness in Jian Wu's eyes. Wow! I saw a violent Zhenguang, who cut through the void in an instant, carrying the terrible power of earth-shattering, and beheaded at a faster speed towards the Lord of Naax. Want to stop me? Dominating the domineering axe, he naturally saw the sword light cut, but there was a slight disdain between his eyebrows. I saw the surging divine power rising to the sky in an instant. The figure of this dominating axe was almost in front of the black wings, and the palms of his left hands had been stretched out. Seeing that the black wings would be brought into the ring, at this moment, he didn't choose to retract his palm to face the sword of Jian Wushuang. Instead, the left hand continued to collect the black wings, while the right hand pulled out the golden axe behind him and waved at the sword light. A terrible axe, when it waved, caused a harsh sound explosion in the space. It's as if heaven and earth can't withstand the power of this axe, and it will be split directly by this axe. The higher master, raising his hand and throwing his feet, is shocking. Even though the domineering axe is not the strongest axe at this moment, the power is still extremely powerful, and it is reasonable to be able to repel the face even if it faces a primary master. However, the axe dominator is facing the sword's strongest, who burst out with the strongest strength at the moment. Only a sound of roar from a distance sounded, and the terror was mad like a tide. The axe dominates the left palm of the hand is less than 3 meters away from the black wings. Such a short distance makes the axe dominate the face of the axe. He thought that the black feathers were his own aspirations. But in vain. A horrible power passed from the giant axe in his hand. What? The axe dominated his face, and his eyes were full of astonishment. At this moment, he felt the horrible power, which not only directly changed the direction of his big axe, but also acted on his deity for the first time, causing an overbearing extreme impact. The surface of the dominating axe dominates the body armor of the highest treasure, and in addition his own body is extremely arrogant. Such shocks will hardly cause damage to his body. However, although he would not be injured, the impact of such a force on his body still caused his body to fly involuntarily. Do not. The dominating axe gave a loud drink, seeing that the black wings were about to fall into his hands, but as a result, his figure was getting farther and farther from the black wings. He was directly blasted back by the sword of warrior sword, although it was not far away, but when he regained his stature and decided to continue to snatch, sword warrior had already taken a step ahead of him before the black wings. With a wave of his hand, the black wings were put into the ring of Qian Kuan directly. It's here! In Jian Wu's eyes, there was a surge of excitement and ecstasy that could not be concealed. Chapter 37:37? The first is here. The black wings have already arrived, and although this battle is still going on, the next thing is much easier for Jian Wushuang. And the rulers who flocked around saw with their own eyes that Jian Wushuang put the black wings into the ring, and all of them suddenly became scarlet. That wing fell into the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword? Well, whether he is the Lord of the Blood Sword or not, dare to grab the wings and die. Kill him. The masters of these rules kill one by one. If the masters of these rules see Jian Wushuang in normal days, it must be a retreat without hesitation, and they dare not have a little bit of thought. But at this moment it is different. The rulers of these rules have been dazzled by the strongest flying treasure. Not to mention that only the ruler of the sword, Wushuang, is standing in front of them, and even if it is a real top master, they will probably shoot without hesitation. I saw an overwhelming offensive that erupted at the same time. There are more than 700 rulers around, and at least half of them are now directly shooting at the sword unparalleled. The Sky's offensive, including sword light, sword shadow, long whip, and mountains directly oppressed, etc., are all frontal attacks. There are also some masters of the rules who have used special attack methods or mysteries, such as some soul attacks, illusions, and some strange mystery effects. In short, Jian Wushuang is now completely reduced to the focus of attack by everyone present. So many, and all kinds of offensives swept from all directions, even if they dominate the ranks, they dare not have the slightest bite. Although Jian Shuangshuang's strength is strong, he cannot withstand the attacks of so many people at the same time. Boom! I saw a lot of mighty impact on Jian Wushuang's body without being hindered. Jian Wushuang is covered by violent power, but only for a moment. Humph! A cold hum, accompanied by Sen Lung's Jianguang, directly wiped out all the power in front of him, and Jian Wushuang's figure also stepped out of that vast power. Not dead. So many of us attacked at the same time and failed to kill him, and it looks like he hasn't been hurt much? So what, if we continue to shoot? I don't believe in the ruler of every other rule can really block so many of us. The masters of these rules who were fainted by greed were ready to take the second round. But Jian Wu's eyes were suddenly cold. You guys, Look for death. The sword, unparalleled killing intention burst. The right-hand Huangquan divine sword pointed forward in front of the void, and the mighty divine power burst out instantly. Jianyu! The icy sword shadow swept straight out. This sword shadow looked very thin, and it didn't seem to have much power. But after being pulled out, it was suddenly broken directly. From the original sword shadow, it turned into hundreds of thousands in a short time, only a small sword shadow the size of a silver needle. These tiny sword shadows scattered from the top void. It was as if there was a sudden sword rain between heaven and earth. The speed of this sword rain is extremely fast, so that the rulers directly in front of Jian Wushuang have no time to respond, and these small sword shadows have been submerged in the body of these rulers one after another. The void ahead stopped suddenly. There are more than 80 rulers in this void, but at this moment, the rulers are all staring wide, their eyes full of panic. The next moment, in addition to the 80 rulers, in addition to the 2 strongest of the 6 realms, who continued to stand there, the others fell silently toward the ground below. They fell to the spot and never stood up again. Under one sword, nearly 80 rulers died on the spot. Frightened, shocked, the rulers present were numb with scalp when they saw this scene. Originally came from the sword towards Wushuang insanely, but at the moment all the masters of the rules around him stopped. Although they were dazzled by the strongest flying treasure in a short time, they were by no means an idiot and a fool. They also feel scared. Like the scene in front of them, it made them all creepy. Just one sword, killing nearly 80 rulers in an instant? What is this concept? You know, the masters of these rules only add up to more than 700 people. The sword Wushuangjiai's sword killed nearly 80 people. Doesn't it mean that he only needs 10 swords to almost all the masters of these rules present? Beheaded? How is this possible? The power of a sword is so terrible. Monster, the Lord of the Blood Sword is a monster at all, and we even wanted the treasure from his hands? Isn't this to death? The masters of these rules roared their heads, and their madness and longing for the strongest flying treasure were gradually suppressed by reason. Indeed, the treasure is good, but it also needs to have the life to take it. And Sword Wushuang naturally also looked at the changes in the eyes of the rulers of the surrounding rules and expressions, and he could see that the ruler of these rules had been shocked by the sword he just had. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's heart breathed a sigh of relief. Although the master of these rules, it is difficult to pose a threat to him. Even if he really slaughtered recklessly with the sword rain he just cast, he could easily kill all the masters of these rules. But if he did, there would be too many offenders. There are more than 700 rulers. These rulers come from various forces, from various astral realms, and some are still behind some big forces, all slaughtered at once. I am afraid he will immediately become the public enemy of this star domain. Although he is not afraid of himself, he will be involved in the horoscope. And now, the rulers of these rules are all deterred by their sword, www. Novel. Without the idea of continuing to fight, it is naturally the best. Fortunately, when I first enlightened under the Zhentian monument, I thought that I might face a siege in the future, and I created this sword rain style. I am afraid that the deterrent effect is not as strong as it is now. Jian Wushuang muttered. The Jinyu style was created when he enlightened under the Zhentian monument. This sword is not too mysterious. The reason why it can kill nearly 80 rulers at one time is mainly because Jian Wushuang's perception of Kendo is too high now, and his own divine power is too strong. These strengths the master of the general rule. It is difficult to survive under the sword rain. But anyone who is strong, like the 2 extremes of the 6 realms, can still save his life in the face of this move. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading UO. Dear, click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37-38? Second more. With one stroke of sword rain, nearly 80 rulers were killed, and the sword unparalleled deterred all rulers present. Of course, this one does not include the domineering master. Boy, hand over the wings. With a roar, the domineering axe in the golden armor was holding the huge axe alone, but the whole body suddenly skyrocketed. Originally only the size of a normal human being, at best it can only be regarded as a relatively large domineering axe, but it turned into a 10-meter-tall golden giant in an instant. This golden giant exudes a mighty momentum, and his body is so aspirational, as if the killing came out of hell. Demon-like. He stepped out one after another, each step trampled on the void, and if the horrible power outside the void, it would be immediately burst by the trample. In just a few steps, the golden demon transformed by the dominating axe had appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and the huge golden axe in his hand was also cut off in a mighty manner. With one axe cut out, the huge towering golden axe shadow seems to divide the world into two. The suffocating horror emanated from the shadow of the golden axe, causing the rulers of many surroundings to change color. Sword without double-sided color is also sinking. He could ignore the ruler of all rules present, but he did not dare to ignore this axe master. After all, this is a real, high-powered master. Humph! The sword Wushuang snorted, and the magical power of life and the sky-cutting technique were cast instantly. The will power given by the laws of the universe also instantly triggered to the extreme. Spark-burning sun. With endless violent sword light, it was cut out instantly and collided directly with the huge golden axe shadow that came from the mighty wave. A loud noise from the clang shook the world. The rulers who watched the battle all felt a sting in their ears, and at the same time, the terrible power swept madly from where the two powers collided. While endless divine power destroys everything around it. Some of the rulers who are relatively close to each other are affected by this horrible divine power because they are less able to dodge. Almost instantly their body is annihilated, crushed, and disappear directly into the world. In this scene, everyone took a breath of air. Retreat. Rewind. Just the aftermath, you can easily destroy the ruler of the 6 realms of void. What a terrifying power. It's terrible. The fierce battle at the higher level of is not something I can wait for. Those rulers all retreated to the distance and out of the battlefield. Although they still held a great deal of enthusiasm for the Black Feathers, even if they were killed at this moment, they did not dare to break into the horrible battlefield in front of them. After all, although treasures are good, they are not as important as life. And in the middle of that battlefield, the two figures were separated again. Jian Wu's eyes were cold, staring at the dominating axe in front of him. The dominating axe dominated his eyes slightly. Good boy, I heard that you defeated Hitomi in the front and forced Hitomi to run away. Everyone said that you already have a high mastery of combat power, but I haven't taken it seriously, but now I really fight it. Even if it is, I also have to admit that you do have the high-power dominance. Even in the high-power dominance, you are no less weak than me, at least on the power of frontal fighting, said the axe master. Dominated by the axe, as the name suggests, he is extremely domineering. His strongest is also attack, extremely domineering, extremely aggressive attack. But just now he tried his best to hit the axe with Jian Wushuang. As a result, he didn't have a slight advantage. This immediately made him understand that Jian Wushuang was not weaker than him in attack. Domineering axe, that wing has already fallen into my hands. You want to get it unless it kills me, but do you think you can do it with your strength? Jian Wushuang sneered. I can't kill you, but since the black wings have fallen into your hands, then you don't want to leave so easily. The axe dominated the domineering Wushuang and drank sharply, the Lord of the Blood Sword, pick up him axe. Banging. The world shook and the axe dominated his hands and simultaneously raised the golden axe in his hand. In a moment of time, it was a mighty one again, exuding a suffocating axe, and the swords were rolled against each other. The sword has no double-sided color change. One-on-one, he didn't have any fear of dominating the axe. He even did his best to fight it. He tried his best to suppress the axe. However, he just got the black wings, but he didn't have time to tangle with the dominating axe. You know, the strongest flying class was born, and the movement was too big. The entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud realm were shaken. For the rest of the continent, it is estimated that on the third continent, all the strong are coming here. Even if there is only one dominating axe in front of him, if it is a long time, I am afraid that there will be a second. It was the third master who came to the scene, and it was also a big trouble for him. I can't entangle this domineering axe master. I have to find a way to leave before I say. Jian Wushuang knew very clearly. He didn't fight at all, he just wanted to leave. The dominating axe naturally saw his intentions. Lord of the Blood Sword, do you want to go? How easy is that? The dominating axe gave a low drink, and in the course of fighting against Jian Wushuang, he suddenly turned over and took out a small pyramid. This pyramid exudes an extremely rich and precious atmosphere. The pinnacle of repression? The two-sided color of the sword suddenly changed. At the beginning of the world, suppress everything. The axe dominated the cold eyes, and threw the pyramid in his hand directly into the void above. Suddenly, a splendid golden light burst out from the pyramid, and the pyramid was infinitely enlarged in the sight of everyone present. A layer of hazy golden light also swept towards the surroundings, covering for hundreds of thousands of miles. These hundreds of thousands of miles are covered by this pyramid. Sword Wushuang is naturally covered by this pyramid. Lord of the Blood Sword, you can't escape. My golden tower is the pinnacle of suppression. I use it to suppress the magic array. Short in time, even the top masters can't be broken. It is impossible for you to escape from this repression. Axe-dominated sneer. The sword has no double-sided color and becomes ugly. The power of his soul swept away, and he could also feel the arrogance of the repressive method released by the pyramid. As the master of the axe said, in a short time he could not break the repressive method, and naturally can't leave from here. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiotian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3739. The first is more. The Lord of the Blood Sword, don't surrender the black wings, you don't want to leave. The axe master snarled. Axe, you may be too high on yourself, even if you have the highest peak of repression. Even if I can't leave, how can you kill me with your help? Jian Wu's eyes were cold, his face was cold. No fear at all. He just didn't want to be too troublesome, so he wanted to leave the first time. But now that he can't do without it, he has nothing to fear. It's not easy to kill him in this starfield by means of life-saving means. Then try it. The axe master is too lazy to fight with Sword Wushuang. The golden demon he transformed is rushing, the golden axe in his hands is huge, and he is rushing towards the Sword Wushuang madly. Jian Wushuang also met directly. Revealing all strength, even the sword power that the will power given by the law of the universe has fully evoked, the combat power has increased, and the basic divine power is much stronger than the general higher masters. With sword skills, he has no fear fight with the axe to dominate the front. Even during the fight, he still had a slight upper hand. Only a low and terrible roar and impact sounded continuously. The fierce battle between the two was dark. The masters of the many rules watching the surroundings have long been terrified. The Lord of the Blood Sword is so powerful and terrible. It's terrible. The ruler of a rule thought he could possess a high-level dominance is incredible, but did not expect that his strength is stronger than the previous rumors, dominated by the axe. He is strong, and he is axe-dominated and good at fighting, but he fights with the Lord of the Blood Sword, but falls into the wind. The Lord of the Blood Sword, in terms of frontal fighting ability, is even slightly better than the Dominator. The rulers were all amazed. While Jian Wushuang and the axe dominated the crazy fight together, there was still a steady stream of strong rushers around. The suppression of the axe dominated by the axe, although it suppresses everything around, making Jian Wushuang unable to leave, but it does not prevent people from coming outside. So, as time passed, more and more powerful men came to this void. After these powerful men arrived, they immediately saw the terrible level in the middle of the battlefield. Frightened, these new rulers quickly figured out what happened, knowing that the strongest flying treasure was in the sword without hands. The strongest flying class treasure is in the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword? What are you waiting for? Everyone, why don't you wait for me to kill the Blood Sword Master, and then look at each other's ability to compete for the strongest flying class. If the masters of so many of our rules join forces, even if they are the masters, they have to retreat. Someone suggested, shoot together, kill the Lord of the Blood Sword? As soon as this proposal was issued, someone immediately sneered and said, go to you, and forgot to tell you, just now, the Lord of the Blood Sword killed nearly 80 rulers with one sword. What? Those who had just arrived in this void rule were immediately taken aback. One sword killed nearly 80 rulers? This was immediately confirmed because too many people saw it at the time. With such a result, these new rulers are also much quieter, and no ruler has ever thought about it. Of course, Jian Wushuang's one sword slayed the record of nearly 80 rulers. Although they can deter many rulers, they can't deter the powerful ones. In addition to the overwhelming axe who rushed to the fierce battle with Jian Wushuang at the beginning, soon the second dominating powerhouse also arrived in this void. And the second master arrived, or Jian Wushuang's acquaintance. It was exactly 3,000 years ago that he fought against Jian Wushuang, and those who were defeated by Jian Wushuang could only flee away, and lost all their faces. The Lord of the Blood Sword. As soon as Master Tong came to this void, the faintly red eyes immediately locked in towards Jian Wushuang. On the way, he already learned that the strongest flying class treasure was in the hands of Jian Wushuang, and now Jian Wushuang is fighting with the axe to dominate the madness. The occupation in front made Master Tong understand at a glance. Dominating a person with the axe alone is impossible, and it is impossible for him to surrender the black wings. Without hesitation, Hitomi went straight forward. Domineering axe, you and I join forces, and teach this little boy who knows nothing about heaven and earth, Tongzhu whispered. Okay. The axe master nodded. This boy is extremely strong, and his frontal killing ability is not even weaker than me, but no matter how strong he is only a ruler, and his body protection ability should not be strong. You assisted me from the side and killed him at the first opportunity. Okay. Hitomi focused his head. They all understand that it is almost impossible for Jian Wushuang to surrender the wings in his hands. In this case, it is only possible to find a way to kill Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang's strength is very strong, after all, he is only a ruler, and his life-saving ability should not be as good as the normal master, which also allows them to see the hope of the sword. Rumble. Endless clouds of blood rolled. The turbulent waves of waves came towards the sword without pressure. Hitomi also shot directly, and as soon as he shot, he did his best. He had fought fiercely against Jian Wushuang, and he knew that Jian Wushuang's strength was definitely better than him. Does Hitomi? Jian Wu's eyes narrowed, and he glanced at Tongzhu, still not afraid. He is not at all concerned by a single axe. Even if a pupil is added now, he is still not qualified to threaten him. What about the two together? Even if the two masters join forces with his current strength, it is still enough to compete positively and even suppress both of them. Jian Wushuang shot with all his strength. Not only did his own power burst into the extreme, most importantly, his swordplay finally broke out. You know, in the understanding of Kendo, he stepped into the origin of the universe of the sword very early, but most of the masters never reached this step. Later, after a long period of time, especially after more than 5,000 years of enlightenment under the Zhentian monument, and more than 3,000 years of research in that sword stone, his understanding of Kendo is getting higher and higher. He, in the origin of the Kendo universe, is really getting started. This kind of Kendo understanding has long surpassed the normal higher masters a lot. Even if they are top masters, I am afraid that only a few can reach him. And Kendo's understanding is so high that his accomplishments in swordplay are naturally high. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiotian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3740. Second more. I saw the sword unparalleled in the siege of the two masters. The sword was soaring, and the terrible sword light was cut out one after another. That sword light is either violent, or misty like a cloud, or lightning fast. Relying on swordsmanship against two masters at the same time with their own strength, not only are they not in the slightest disadvantage, they even completely suppressed these two masters. Yes, it is suppression. Although the axe dominates the axe, although it is domineering and powerful, it is not too subtle. Before Jian Wushuang hit him, he could gain the upper hand. Now he does not choose to hit him. Instead, he fights with exquisite sword skills. That sword is more than a sword, and the axe dominator can only resist with difficulty. As for the pupil, his strength is much weaker than that of the dominating axe. It is even simpler for him to use his sword. He directly crushes it with thunder-like means. Even with one enemy and two opponents, these two major dominators are still not his opponents. Too strong. Suppressing these two masters with one enemy and two? This is the true strength of the Lord of the Blood Sword? The masters of the many rules watching the battle around, their heads were all in a bun. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that the strength of a ruler would be so strong. Now think about what the axe master and pupil master just said, saying that sword unparalleled is just the master of the rules, the body protection ability should not be strong, you can find the opportunity to kill him, now it is simply joke. The two of them joined forces and were crushed by Jian Wushuang's front. How could they find a chance to kill Jian Wushuang? Even if Jian Wushuang's body protection is not strong, can they meet Jian Wushuang's body? How could that be? How could this be? The axe master shouted with an incredible look on his face. This boy, his swordplay is so terrible. When he fought with me 3,000 years ago, swordplay had not reached such a terrible level. Hitomi also screamed. He did not know that during these 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang had been enlightened under the sword stone. Although most of the enlightenment was to perfect the trick of guarding the earth, while he was enlightened, his understanding of kendo was always present ascended, his swordplay has also been enhanced. In addition, 3,000 years ago, when Jian Wushuang fought against him, he didn't do his best. Without all the effort, the pupil can't resist it. Earth and earthquake. Jian Wushuang's terrible strength stunned everyone present. Those rulers who watched the surroundings had some illusions about the strongest flying treasure, but now they have seen the horror power revealed by Jian Wushuang. Even the two masters joined forces directly by Jian Wushuang. Crushing. This scene made those rulers have no idea about the Black Wings. The two masters joined forces and were both suppressed by the Lord of the Blood Sword. Could it be that the third lord had to come in person to hope to subdue the Lord of the Blood Sword? The third master? Everyone moved inside. But just then, "Come, here comes the third master." An exclaimed voice suddenly sounded. The crowd immediately heard the sound and saw a blue figure in the void near the front of the battlefield. It was a beautiful woman in a blue pigment robe. This beautiful woman had a cold face, as if she could not eat the fireworks on the earth, and a touch of divine power spread from her. Although this breath of divine power is very weak, we can detect the breath of this divine power. All the people present are physically and mentally shocked. Even in the battlefield, Jian Wushuang, dominating axe master, and Hitomi master, who were fighting fiercely together, all changed dramatically when they noticed this breath of God. Nothing else, just because this breath of divine power is much stronger than the divine breath of general higher masters. There is no doubt that the Comer is a top master. Herald. It is the supreme master of Tianqi Star Realm. It turned out to be her? The body of many rulers around the place shuddered. The supreme master, unlike many masters in this star domain, has a long existence and a long history of fame. She is a master who has not risen for a long time, and so far, it is only 1,000,000 years. It has only taken her hundreds of thousands of years since she was born to practice and now ranks among the top masters. No doubt she is a real genius. Tianqi Astral Realm, like the Taichu Divine Realm, is only a third-level astral realm that has not yet fully evolved. Easy to provoke. After all, it's a real top master. In this star field, aside from His Holiness, the top masters who are known and still remain in this star field will never exceed 5. Such a master is certainly awesome. His Majesty has come, and now you are not worried that no one has subdued you. Master Tong stared at Jian Wushuang and sneered. Well, even if the Supreme Master can subdue me, I will only give him the black wings. As for the pupil and the axe master, you two don't think about it. Jian Wushuang is sneer. Dominating the axe, and Hitomi's eyes immediately sink. Of course they longed for the black wings. However, what Jian Wushuang said is also true. The Supreme Master has arrived, and the top dominates the strength. Although it is possible to subdue it, even if it is subdued, Jian Wushuang will definitely only give the black wings to the Supreme Master. Give them both. And if the black feathers are in the hands of His Holiness, they are afraid that they have no desire to fight. Grab the treasure from the top masters? That was a joke. You are the Lord of the Blood Sword. The Supreme Master stood on the edge of the battlefield and did not enter the battlefield for the first time, but stared coldly at Jian Wushuang. It's me. The three masters, Jian Wushuang and Doha, also stopped. Jian Wushuang smiled. The Supreme Master also came for that wing? Yes. His Excellency nodded. The strongest flying treasure is not something you can own. Give up that wing. This promises to give you one of the strongest attack treasures and one pinnacle suppression, a pinnacle soul defense, a pinnacle flying treasure is compensation. Oh. Jian Wushuang frowned and nodded secretly. I have to say that this young man is quite kind, and he didn't take the shot directly at the beginning, but he was willing to exchange it for the treasure. Although she is willing to pay the highest price, not as good as one of the strongest flying treasures, it is also very good. But unfortunately, I finally got the chance to get one of the strongest flying treasures. Of course, Jian Wushuang would not let it go so easily. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiotian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3741. The first is more. Sir, I'm sorry, this flying strongest treasure is also very useful to me, so I can't promise you. Jian Wushuangdo. Don't you promise? The Supreme Master's face remained unchanged. Then I can only be sorry. Why, the Supreme Master of the Supreme Master, even today, regardless of the face of the rule of the ruler of me, cannot shoot? Jian Wushuang laughed. You are really just the master of the rules, but in terms of combat power, you are suppressed by the combination of the Dominator and the Hitomi Masters. This kind of combat power is not far from the top masters. This block shoots at you, and how can it be considered disregarding face? His Holiness' voice was cold. But after all, this seat is the top master, and I will not bully you. So, you take 3 shots from me. If you are not hit by me after 3 shots, this seat will immediately turn around and leave. Oh! Jian Wushuang frowned, but his heart was amused. This youth appears to be affectionate. As long as he was not seriously injured under the 3 shots, he left for convenience. But in fact, the really smart people know that the 3 shots of the Supreme Master will inevitably make every effort to fully burst out the strongest combat power of her top master. Under these 3 shots, if the sword unparalleled is unstoppable, and is directly beheaded or severely wounded, the Supreme Master will still continue to shoot. But if these 3 shots were blocked by the sword Wushuang, but not severely damaged. Even the strongest attack could not severely damage the sword Wushuang. It means that the Supreme Master could not kill the sword Wushuang at all. Of course, she can only leave. In other words, the Supreme Master said these words not to open the internet at all, but to speak nicely. If she is really jealous of her top master's identity, then it should be said that within 3 shots, the sword is undead, and she immediately turned around and left. And just not to be hit hard by her. Can be severely damaged, indicating that the Supreme Master has the ability to kill Jinshuang. Can't be badly hit, and the Supreme Master can do nothing about the sword unparalleled. You, Lord, what you say is so nice. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, but then nodded. Okay, let me see how strong the top master is. Jian Wushuang also has a glimmer of expectation in his heart. The top master, he has also contacted, that is the Tianping master of Beihai Palace. At that time, Tianping's master had also shot at him, but that time, Tianping's master had been reserved, and he had not given up all his strength at all. In addition, at that time Jian Wushuang's own strength was still relatively weak, and he couldn't fully feel the gap between himself and Tianping. But now it's different. Sir, cast your marksmanship. Jian Wushuang held Huangquan's Excalibur with one hand, and his divine power surged wildly. In the face of a top master, he naturally will not have the slightest indifference, and with all his strength, the power given by the laws of the universe has erupted to the extreme. The Supreme Master looked indifferently, turned his hand, and a silver spear appeared in her hand. This silver spear is 2 meters long. At the moment it appeared in the hands of the Supreme Lord, a cold chill swept away instantly. The surrounding void was immediately condensed into ice under the cold attack. Become extremely cold. So cold gun. Jian Wushuang glanced at the silver spear in the hands of the Supreme Lord. There is no doubt that the silver spear in the hands of the Supreme Lord is the strongest magic weapon. Pure power is never weaker than its own Huangquan Excalibur. Lord of the Blood Sword, optimistic, this is the first shot. The Supreme Master's voice dropped, and the silver spear in his hand stabbed straight ahead. The silver light flashed, and Sin Lung's spear swept across the void. Wherever he passed, the space instantly condensed into ice. The heavens and the earth were immediately darkened and dark. And in this dim world, there is only this dazzling silver light, which is extremely dazzling and exudes a cold luster. So fast! There was a flash of surprise in Jian Wu's eyes. The shot was too fast. Almost instantaneously pierced through the void before him, he didn't even have time to carefully sense the power of the gun. Too late to think, soared Wushuang directly out of the sword. Spark-burning sun. Jian Wushuang's divine power exploded, and the sky-cutting technique was immediately cast, and his strength burst to the extreme at this moment. The violent Jingguang cut out instantly, colliding with that silver light with the horror of power. Clang. With a loud noise, the sword trembled without a figure, and the figure was backed up several steps in succession. Each step was heavy and powerful, trampled on the void. But there is no doubt that this gun, Jian Wushuang, is the next. Moreover, he relied on swordsmanship to resist it. Although it was completely suppressed, it was finally blocked, and there was not much power to impact him. Yes, you can rely on sword power to defend this gun from the front. This has proven that your strength is the top even among the high masters. However, it is not enough to rely on this strength alone. Look. His Holiness said indifferently. Sir, no need to talk nonsense, I have already taken your first shot. Next, let me look at your second shot. Jian Wushuang said with some excitement. The first shot that His Holiness had just cast had already amazed Jian Wushuang's heart, and he was indeed the top master. Just that shot, it is clear that the Supreme Master was only casually exhibiting and did not show much strength at all, but despite this, he still easily defeated and completely suppressed the star-burning sun he cast. The second shot that the Supreme Master is about to cast is definitely stronger. Second shot, you are optimistic. There was a trace of coldness in the blue eyes of the Supreme Master. Before the first shot, he just stabbed a shot at the front very randomly, but this second shot, during the process of casting, wow. A lot of ice condense in front of her out of thin air. A suffocating forest cold chill spread. The Lord's silver spear, as well as the palm of her holding the lance, were covered with frost, and a cold air spit out from the Lord's mouth. Ha! The spear is another stab. This thorn, ka. The surrounding area is completely condensed into ice and snow. The silver lance also turns into a huge ice cone, carrying a terrifying penetration force. Chao Jian Wushuang stabbed. This shot, simply talking about power, is definitely several times stronger than the first shot just now. Swords burst into sharp eyes. He held Huangquan's Excalibur at the same time with both hands. A sword is cut out, and the void is completely chaotic. There was no roar or explosive sound, and the sword that Wu Shuangshuang cut out at this moment did not seem to have such terrible power. Of course, the magic sword fell, but an icy sword light directly cut the space relentlessly, ruthlessly tore everything in front, tore the ice and snow, and ruthlessly chopped the huge ice cone. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiotian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3742. Second More. Huangguang. The strongest sword created by Jian Wushuang. If the sun-burning sun is extremely violent, and the explosive power bursts out, then this falling Huangquan is cold and ruthless. This cold and ruthless sword seems to cut through everything that is encountered. No one, nothing can block its edge. In this sword, there is a breath of the law of the universe. It is precisely because of the existence of a breath of the laws of the universe that this sword might be so terrifying. In the early days of the divine realm, Jian Wushuang fought against Emperor 13 Kendo. In the end, Jian Wushuang defeated Emperor 13's sword system and won the victory. But the distance of that battle has now passed more than 8,000 years, and in these 8,000 years, Jian Wushuang first learned 5,000 years under that town's monument and then studied under the sword stone for 3,000 years. His progress in Kendo was huge, and the mastery of the laws of the universe was more intense. The power of nature as a sword is far from being comparable. This sword. The pupil who watched the battle around saw the sword skill that Jian Wushuang was casting at the moment, and his face changed suddenly. He clearly remembered that 3,000 years ago, Jian Wushuang cast his sword and vomited blood directly. You know, he has the strongest armor of the treasure, but he still vomits blood. But imagine how good the sword might be. But now seeing the sword unparalleled again, the power of swordsmanship is even stronger than before? I have to say that the sword is truly powerful. At least the domineering axe dominated that he could not perform such a level of attack. However, what Jian Wushuang is facing now is, after all, a real top master. The top dominator's combat power, but you are far stronger than the higher master. I saw Nathan's cold and horrifying ice cone blasting, and that swordless pair of cold and ruthless Jianguang came into direct contact. Huh! The sound of divine power squeezing the impact sounded, and the final result was still the sword light of Jian Wushuang being crushed. The cold and ruthless sword light also supported for a period of time, but it completely dissipated, while the ice cone still carried good power and directly hit the sword's godless body. Jian's stature was violent, and the whole person was blasted out. After a while, it was difficult to stand firm in the void again. After standing firmly, Jian Wushuang raised his head and stared at his holiness, and he couldn't help but admire. It is indeed the top master, it is amazing. Jian Wushuang is truly amazing. One of his most terrible and confident swords is Huangquan's. After all, this is a sword with the breath of the laws of the universe. The mighty power is outrageous, but unfortunately, the top master is much stronger than him simply in divine power, and the supreme master's shot was just as powerful. Therefore, he is still being crushed. However, the crushing returned to crushing, but the power left by that shot did not cause him much damage. Normally, Jian Wushuang first has the peak of the Arcana Warframe, and at the same time he has cultivated the supreme immortal Shen body. The body is comparable to the arcane, indestructible. If that shot is not offset by most of his power, and impact words on his body might also hurt him. But with the blocking of the sword, the damage that this gun brought him was minimal, and Jian Wushuang didn't care. My shot, although he resisted with his sword, weakened most of the power, but still had more than 30% of the power directly impacted on his body, but under the impact of more than 30% of the power, he turned a little not at all. The breath of divine power on his body has hardly weakened. The Supreme Master Lu Mei finally wrinkled. The two masters watching around, including the masters of many rules, were surprised when they saw this scene. How is that possible? The Lord of the Blood Sword was clearly hit by the Supreme Master's marksmanship, but why was he not injured? The gun power, although the sword of the Lord of the Blood Sword offset more than half of it, there are still more than 30% of the power left. The top dominates more than 30% of the power. Under normal circumstances, the higher masters have to bear and have to be injured, even severely damaged. The Lord of the Blood Sword and the ruler of the rules are as good as nothing? Isn't he saying that he is a ruler, where is the body not strong? But now it seems that his body is much stronger than the general master. There was a loud noise that rang through the world. Indeed, in the past, almost everyone believed that although Jian Wushuang's attack power was comparable to that of higher masters, and even the highest among the higher masters, his protection ability should not be stronger. It is because of this that the Dominator and Dojo masters feel that there is a hint of hope to be able to slay the sword unparalleled. But now, in this scene, where does the Lord of the Blood Sword look like he is weak in body protection? The top master has a positive impact of more than 30% power. He relies on the gods to resist, but he has nothing at all. Is this kid in disguise? He has been seriously injured, but is pretending to be nothing? A ruler could not help but say. But as soon as his words were finished, there were a lot of fool-like eyes around him. Yes, demeanor can be disguised, but the breath of divine power on the body can't be disguised. If a person is severely wounded, the breath of divine power on his body will inevitably weaken a great deal, but the breath of divine power on Jian Wushuang will be slightly weakened. The Lord of the Blood Sword, it seems that this seat is a contempt for you. You, a ruler, not only attack and kill powerful enough to match the High Master, even the body protection ability, you are much stronger than the General Master. This body protection ability, the top dominates the following: I am afraid that no one can do anything for you. Qingzuanshen said. Her words immediately attracted the approval of many powerful people around. Indeed, when Jian Wushuang became the most important of the supreme immortal mystery, he was destined to be rampant in the higher masters, but still cannot be ignored in the face of the top masters. They want to get the strongest treasure of his armor for him. If he has the strongest armor of the treasure warrior, and the sturdy body of the sword unparalleled, then even if he encounters the top master, he will have no fear at all. Lord of the Blood Sword, next, this seat is about to fire a third shot. The Supreme Master shook the silver spear in the handshake, and his eyes became sharper. This seat says it can do it. If it can't damage you, this seat will immediately turn away and never leave again. There is a slight entanglement. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3743. The first is more. Bring it on. Jian Wushuang tightened the Huangquan Excalibur in his hands, full of expectations. The two shots previously cast by the Supreme Master were outrageous. Jian Wushuang had already performed the strongest sword skill, and was still crushed by the front. Now, how strong is the third shot that the Supreme Master is about to cast? The masters of the many rules watching the battle around also looked forward. They also want to see the strongest shot of His Holiness. God punished. The Supreme Master chuckled coldly, humming. The vast pure power that only the top masters possessed instantly swept out. At the moment when this pure divine power swept out, the breath of divine power exuded from the Supreme Master was weakened a little more than before. Although not much weakened, it was weakened. Obviously, the strongest shot will be cast, and the Supreme Master is not easy. The world is silent. Under everyone's attention, the Supreme Lord slowly stretched out the silver spear in his hand. The silver spear turned into a silver lightning, but suddenly it exploded under the confluence of majestic power. The rumbling was originally a normal-sized silver spear, but at this moment it was zoomed in at a horrible speed, and it stretched a long length in a blink of an eye. Easily pierced through the space, straight toward the sword Wushuang. For a moment, the whole world sounded a harsh sound boom. Jian Wushuang stood in the void in front of the spear, saw the spear zoomed in, and then stabbed towards himself. At this moment he seemed to be caught in a violent storm. His silver robe and hair were all blown. Hunting sounded. So terrible power. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. His heart was very surprised. He just took the first shot and the second shot of His Holiness. Although the two shots are also arrogant, far beyond his own ability, at least the sword is unmatched. But the third shot, the moment he stabbed him, gave him a feeling that he could not compete. This gun can completely crush everything. Although he also created a good sword, but no matter how much power he broke out, in the face of this gun, there is only a complete defeat. Jian Wushuang also immediately understood that with this shot, he could not use his sword skills to confront him. But being unable to compete directly does not mean that Jian Wushuang cannot resist. Such a terrible and powerful shot just made me examine the achievements of my 3,000 years. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly, his eyes flashed. Guardian of the Earth. The sword is unparalleled. Huang Quan's Excalibur seems to be just cut out randomly, but it has a special mystery. Buzzing. A large number of swords meanwhile, with a large amount of earth-colored energy, it instantly rises. The protection of the earth is based on the rules of the earth. Earth, heavy, nostalgic. Cooperating with Jian Wushuang's accomplishments on the kendo. Instantly, a heavy earth-colored sword domain was formed. Sword Realm, Earth Sword Realm. And after the emergence of a major area of sword area, the second and third major areas of sword area immediately formed. Almost in a blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang gathered the sword area of 12 major areas in front of him. The land sword domain is the product of my perfect combination of the rules of the earth and the origin of the kendo universe. It has a very strong body protection ability. A single major land sword domain is logically enough to easily resist the full blow of the primary master. I, at the same time, condensed the 12 major sword areas at the same time, plus the endless mood that I incorporated into this style. I would like to see if I can stop this shot. Jian Wuzhong Zhongjing Man's Flash. Boom! The long silver spear containing the mighty power of destroying the heavens and the earth finally stabbed. The first time I stabbed on the earthy sword area directly in front of Jian Wushuang. Put, 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 put. In just an instant, the 12 major sword areas collapsed to sevenfold and collapsed more than half. Immediately followed again. Put. After 2 sounds, the 8th and 9th major sword areas also collapsed. But starting from the 10th major sword area, the momentum of that spear's impact slowed down significantly. Put. The 10th major territory of the sword was still defeated. The 11th major area of swordsmanship persisted for a while and was finally defeated as well. At the 12th level, which is the last major sword area, the spear still hit the 12th major sword area for a period of time, but in the end, it failed to completely defeat the 12th major sword area, the huge spear. He paused in the void, and his power was completely exhausted. The long silver spear has dissipated and reappeared in the hands of the Supreme Master. But at this moment, the Supreme Master Qing was horrified and unbelievable. Not only her, but also the Axe Masters, Hitomi Masters, and the many Rule Masters who watched the surrounding battles were completely annihilated at this moment. In the previous 2 shots, although Jian Wushuang resisted, the discerning people could see that Jian Wushuang was not easy to resist. Now the 3rd shot is also the strongest shot of the Supreme Master. In order to cast this shot, she has paid a certain price. This shot is enough to completely crush Jian Wushuang, at least it can also make Jian Wushuang subject to a certain degree of harm. But the results have surprised everyone. This strongest shot was resisted by Jian Wushuang intact. Such a horrible shot couldn't really impact his body. Just the earthy strange power that emerged in front of Jian Wushuang completely resisted the power of this shot, even his body. There is no slight retreat in shape. How is this possible? Hitomi could not help but screamed. What is that power, anyway? The dominating axe stared at Jian Wushuang. At this moment, the Supreme Master of Qing Dynasty also set off a huge wave in his heart. She stared hard at Jian Wushuang, remembering the scene just now. That power is the treasure? No. Novel. That kind of feeling is not supreme, but swordplay? Yes, it's swordplay. The blue sage's eyes narrowed. A ruler, the sword guard of the body, cast a shot at this strongest god, completely blocking it. The Supreme Master could hardly believe that it was true. But the truth is right here. Your Honor, let it go. Jian Wushuang also spoke at this time, with a smile on his face and a deep breath in his heart. 3,000 years of swordstone enlightenment. I spent most of the 3,000 years in perfecting the guardianship of the earth. In the end, I was able to condense the 12 major sword domains at the same time, and I was stronger than one. It turns out that these 3,000 years I wasn't in vain. Jian Wushuang's heart was also extremely excited. Remember the first domain name in this book. Emperor Jiutian. Chapter 3744. Second more. 3,000 years ago, when he first arrived in the Red Cloud realm, the trick he created to protect the earth was still immature, but it was worthy of a major sword area. And the earth at that time was extremely pure. But in the past 3,000 years, he has studied and studied under that sword stone. The great Emperor Sword realm that can be united to this day is already 12-fold. The most important thing is that the 12 major areas of the sword realm also carry a force. The endless moods are perfectly combined to make these 12 major sword areas more tenacious. After reaching this step, although Jian Wushuang knows that his sword's body protection ability should be extremely good, at least the attack at the higher level of the master level can be completely resisted. As for whether the attack at the top level can be blocked, he's not sure. But now he really fights with the top masters, and the Supreme Master in front of him also took out his strongest strength and cast his strongest shot, but he failed to break all of his 12 major sword areas, which made the sword warriors are almost surprised. Qing Zun's strongest shot could not completely break the 12 major sword areas, which shows that the defense ability of the Earth Guard is much stronger than he imagined. During the 3,000 years of enlightenment, he did not waste it. Unlike Jian Wushuang's excitement, the people around him have long been shocked. The Lord of the Blood Sword. The Supreme Master also looked back at Jian Wushuang again, and the emotion on his face also slowly converged, and he returned to the old coldness. You are the master of the rules, and the combat power is not weaker than that of the higher master. I did not expect you is even more frightening. Not only has an extremely powerful body, you can directly resist the attack of 30% of this seat without damage, and you also know such terrible body swordsmanship. With this sword body swordsmanship, even if it is the top master, there are only a handful of people who are qualified to kill you. At least some of the top masters in the star domain should have no such ability. The Supreme Master said this with her own feelings, at least she thought so. But when she said this, the void around her immediately caused a violent commotion. Oh my God, the Supreme Lord said that this star field, no one can kill the Lord of the Blood Sword? This is also normal. I haven't seen the Supreme Master cast his strongest shot, but he was blocked by the sword of the Blood Sword intact. Is there such a sword, plus on top of his mighty body, some of the top masters of this star domain, if they don't join hands one-on-one, I am afraid no one can help him. The Lord of the Blood Sword, the ruler of every area, the fighting power is as powerful as the High Master. I did not expect that his life-saving ability is even more incredible. It is a monster. Before we even wanted to kill such a monster to fight for the wings in his hands, it was just daydreaming. The sounds of astonishment sounded one after another. The Supreme Lord spoke again, the Lord of the Blood Sword, although you are only the Lord of the Rules, but with such overbearing strength and life-saving means, it should be that the strongest flying gem is in your hands. You are qualified to occupy that kind of arcane. Having said that, the Supreme Master solemnly looked at Jian Wushuang, and even if he turned, he obviously intended to leave directly. But when she left, she glanced at the dominating axe next to her. Ba axe, your repressor Jibao has been suppressing here. Could it be that you want to keep this seat together? The axe dominated the front. He had previously used the repression class Jibao to suppress this void, just to prevent the swordsman from fleeing, and did not intend to stop the Supreme Master. But now that the Supreme Master is leaving, of course, he is also restricted by his repressive class treasure. The dominating axe glanced at His Holiness Qing, and then looked at Jian Wushuang, sighing at the bottom of his heart. I used to think that the Lord of the Blood Sword was just the Lord of the Rules anyway. Even though his combat strength is not weak, his ability to protect his life should not be strong. As long as a few more masters join forces, he can be sure to kill him. Of course, I did not expect that the Lord of the Blood Sword's body has a strong hair-saving ability, especially the body sword that has just been cast, and even the Supreme Master is helpless. I am a High Master and have no chance at all. The dominating axe shook his head and did not insist any more. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the surrounding empty repression squad. After the repression of the retreat, the Supreme Master left directly. The Supreme Master has already left. Why, you two are still planning to stay and continue to be stupefied by me? Jian Wushuang looked at Doha and Doju with interest. The Dominator Axe glanced at Hitomi. The Lord of the Blood Sword, you are terrific. The Lord of the Axe said aloud, then turned and left. There is a flash of sharpness in the pupil's head. There is a festival between him and Jian Wushuang. If there is a chance, he will naturally take the fight against Jian Wushuang without hesitation, but now in this occasion, the Supreme Master and the Axe dominated, leaving him alone. Wu Shou has only been thoroughly crushed, he naturally did not dare to stay more. Soon, the three masters all left one after another. Even the masters left, and those rulers around them didn't have any idea of scrambling, and soon they all left. The battle for the strongest flying treasure has finally come to an end here. In the Red Cloud realm, above the void of the third continent, the sword Wusuo slowly moved forward. He had two summons of communication in his hand, one of the Lord of the Heavens and the other of the Lord of Time and Space. Tian Ho Shao, admire, admire, rule the rule with one enemy two, dominate the two with the axe and dominate the pupil, and also receive 3 shots of the Supreme Master in front of you lost, and the strongest shot cast by His Holiness paid a certain price. He couldn't break your body sword, which really made me wait for the Lord to be ashamed. Originally, the Master of Space and Time knew that Jian Wushuang had received the lightest flying treasure and was coming at the fastest speed. But on the way he received news that Jian Wushuang's crisis had been lifted, and for a few reasons, he knew the process of the previous war. Even if it is the Lord of Time and Space who has some understanding of Jian Wushuang, he cannot help but marvel. Indeed, the Supreme Lord is a real top master. Her strongest shot didn't even break your body sword. Sword Heaven, when did your body sword become like this? Domineering. Chapter 3745. The first is more. It's true, in the past 3,000 years, I did not search for the treasure on the third continent, but I have been learning about the sword technique under the sword stone. Among the 4 sword techniques of the sword stone, there is an extremely deep protection. Body swordsmanship, I have been enlightened for a full 3,000 years, and then I have continued to improve the body swordsmanship that I have created to the point where I am now. Jian Wushuangdo. Is that so? No wonder I've been summoned to you before. You keep saying that you are enlightening. It turned out that you were enlightening on such swordsmanship. The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time are also aware. By the way, Tianho Xiaoyu, the strongest flying class treasure is now in your hands, and you should hurry up and look at it. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded, temporarily interrupted the communication with the two, and then found a quiet place and took out the black wings. The black feathered wings are cold and extremely cold. This wing is also covered with complex and mysterious secret patterns, which are invisible even to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, even though Xian started trying to refine the black wings. At the beginning of refining, there was a resistance immediately. Sure enough. Jian Wushuang frowned, not surprised. Arcana, even if it is a general level, is not easy to refining. If you want to refining it, you must meet the requirements of this treasure. At the strongest level of the universe, the threshold for refining will be higher. Like the Sword Warrior's Huangquan Excalibur, the strongest cosmic treasure, the conditions are extremely harsh, but fortunately, when Sword Warrior obtained Huangquan Excalibur, he had entered the origin of the universe of the sword. At that time, he had reached the refinement of Huangquan Excalibur. Requirements: this is relatively easy to refine Huangquan Excalibur. But this black wing, as the strongest flying treasure, has a higher theoretical value than Huangquan Excalibur, and the threshold for refining is naturally higher. However, Jian Wushuang's current strength is far from being comparable. This black feather refining requirement seems to have something to do with the laws of the universe. As Jian Wushuang studied, he soon learned the threshold for refining the black wings, and he just reached it. It didn't take long for him to refine the black wings. As soon as the refining was completed, he immediately got the information of this black wing. Xian Guang Tiani, the strongest flying class treasure. Xian Guang Shitiani? That's a good name. Jian Wushuang muttered. Like ordinary flying and armored armors, this black light wing also has 3 different powers, and it also contains 2 major secrets. The first is the triple power, which is higher than the first, but the conditions for triggering are also more difficult than the first. The first important power is to be able to induce the existence of the laws of the universe with extreme clarity. The second important power is to realize a trace of the law of the universe. The third important power is that it requires a certain level of understanding of the laws of the universe before it can be triggered. The law of the universe? The conditions under which Xuanguang Di Tianyi evoked turned out to be related to the laws of the universe. The higher the awareness of the laws of the universe, the stronger the power of the priming? Jian Wushuang secretly wondered, but immediately he understood. The strongest cosmic treasure, and also a special treasure like flying, is indeed eligible for the origin of the universe. With the triple power of Xuanguang and Tianyi, Jian Wushuang now meets the requirements for the first power. The first power, as long as he can clearly sense the existence of the law of the universe, and this step, when he first came to him in the law of the universe, he has already reached. And he has now grasped the breadth of the law of the universe. Speaking of which, he now not only meets, but even exceeds the requirement of priming the first power. It's just the second power of Shenguang's Tianyi, and then he really needs to understand a bit of the law of the universe. This is far away for Jian Wushuang. Try this first power first. There was a flash of fierce flicker in the sword's eyes, and the black wings in his hand instantly merged into his body surface, but then spread out behind him. The huge black wings exude a special mysterious wave. With the sword's thoughts, the first power can be triggered instantly. Alas, a fierce show of wings. Call out. I saw a streamer rushing out in an instant, but in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in the void 10,000 miles away. This speed. Jian Wushuang's figure stopped in the void, but his gaze was a little excited. Too fast, this is too fast. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Is too fast. Just in a blink of an eye, he flew 100,000 miles directly. You must know that this is in the Red Cloud realm, where the heavens and the earth are under immense restrictions. It is not as unscrupulous as the divine realm in the early days. Traveling 100,000 miles in the blink of an eye, this terrifying speed, even if it is the top master, is so. My speed was also relatively fast before, and it would never be inferior to the ordinary master, but compared with the speed at which I now ignite Xuanguang Wuxianyi, it is almost a witch. It's too fast. Even if it's the top master, it's probably not as fast as I am. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He doesn't know how fast a top lord bursts out with all his strength, but he can also make a basic judgment. Besides, let us say that the previous pupil, when facing himself, could not perform the life-saving technique when facing himself escape. That speed is scary. However, the speed at which the pupil Zhu was performing the life-saving mystery at that time was definitely not as fast as his current self, and definitely much slower than himself. Thus, he can probably infer. He knew before that, with the strongest flying treasure, his speed could definitely be greatly increased. But he did not expect that this increase in speed would be so much as it all at once, even faster than the speed of ordinary top masters. Moreover, this is only the first power of Xian Guangyu Tianyi. If there is a chance in the future, he will realize a trace of the law of the universe and evoke the second power of Xuanguang Yuxianyi. Not faster? Second level power. There was a glimmer of expectation in Jian Wu's eyes. The threshold for Zhuangguang's Tianyi's second prestige to trigger is to realize a trace of the law of the universe. This cosmic law, under normal circumstances, only the supreme superpowers are qualified to enlighten, but this is only under normal circumstances. Jian Wushuang knows that many things in this world and this huge universe cannot be inferred by common sense, such as those evils that cannot be inferred by common sense. Those terrible talents can understand a trace of the universe at the level of the master, or even more, It is not impossible to master a trace of the universe at the level of the master of the rules. Chapter 3746. Second more. Although Jian Wushuang will not be blindly confident that he can compare with the unbelievable evil in the universe, it is always a hope. This is just the basic power of Shuangguang Yantianyi. This Shuangguang Yantianyi also contains two secret techniques. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. Xian Guangxi Tianyi comes with two major mysteries, namely Shuangguang Phantom and Shuangguang Realm. Shuangguang Phantom is a mysterious spell performed by Shuangguang Yantianyi. As for the Shuangguang Realm, just like its name, it is naturally a heavy field of Xuanguang's celestial wings. Both of these two mysteries are performed together with Shuangguang Yantianyi, and their power is naturally extraordinary. However, Jian Wushuang of these two secret techniques also need to be enlightened before they can be exhibited. One body method, one domain method, hoping to surprise me. With a smile on his face, Jian Wushuang sat down and began to enlighten these two secret techniques. A flash, 10 years have passed. Red clouds rolling in the vast void. The ghostly streamer illusions flickered in the void. Each flash, when it reappeared, was already in the void hundreds of feet away, and there was almost no interval between the flashes. Countless phantoms flickered. At half a moment, all these phantoms dissipated, and in the most central void, the figure of Jian Wushuang gradually formed. Unbelievable! The mystery of the body in this Shuangguang Piantianyi is incredible. It's better to describe it as a body rather than a body. The sword's eyes twinkled with a strong light. During the 10 years of enlightenment, he has mastered the two mysteries of Shuangguang Phantom and Shuangguang Realm respectively. And just now he was performing the Black Light Phantom, which seems to be the body magic, but in fact, every flash of this Black Light Phantom is directly moved from one void to another. It is like the space-time movement in the space-time magic created by the Lord of Spacetime. The difference is that time and space shift is a life-saving mystery, which can be transmitted from a distance based on the space coordinates left. Although this mysterious life-saving ability is strong, it is only useful to ordinary rulers. After all, this mystery will be limited by time and space. Once someone can cast time and space imprisonment, then this time and space movement cannot be cast at all. And the current strength of Jian Wushuang can threaten him and be eligible to let him escape. At least he is the master. Even if he is not good at the rules of time and space, he certainly has treasures in space and time. Can easily cast time and space. So this time and space shift has no use for the current sword Wushuang. However, the near-body movements performed in this mystic light phantom are not affected by the restraint of time and space. Even if it is only a short-range movement of time and space, each movement can only be hundreds of feet, up to a few tens of miles, but this mystic light phantom can be used continuously. Imagine that if Jian Wushuang was in a close fight with a master, he would perform this secret technique, move directly near the master, change the position, and that master could basically not capture his specifics. Location. The fight between the two men. From the beginning, he was able to stand invincible by this method. This mystery is worthy of being performed in conjunction with the strongest flying class treasure, Xian Guangyu Tianyi, but it works. Jian Wu's eyes were full of surprise. As for the mysterious realm, the sword Wushuang's expression moved, and the secret lines on the body of Xuanguang's wing Tianyi wing lit up instantly, and the time rushed. A lot of dark streamers burst out from the wing. These dark streams are sweeping out. In the blink of an eye, it covered the range of tens of thousands of miles around, so that the range of tens of thousands of miles was completely trapped in the dark streamer field. Shuangguang Realm, although it is a mystery, its movement and appearance are just like the normal realm-like shock. As for the power, realm, oppression, Jian Wushuang whispered, and instantly, in the huge streamer field, there was a terrible oppression. This oppression, oppressed above the void, the space began to tremble madly. The oppressive effect in this field is very strong. Jian Wushuang is at the center of the field. Mastering this field, he can naturally clearly sense the oppressive power in this field. He felt for the first time that the oppressive effect of this mysterious realm seemed not to be inferior to the general domain top peak treasure, or even stronger than the general domain top peak treasure. Just like his own magic sand realm, it is the top-class realm of treasure, but it is a bit inferior to the mysterious realm at this moment. However, we must know that the Shuangguang realm is only a mysterious technique performed by Shuangguang Yantianyi, and it is not a domain treasure. This mystery can be perfectly combined with the realm of the realm. Magic sand realm, out. The sword Wushuang's thoughts moved, and the black quicksand of time was also directly impacted. It also permeated the range of tens of thousands of miles and did not conflict with the black streamer of the sky, but the two perfectly combined. Shuangguang realm and Masha realm are a perfect combination. Boom boom. The terrifying realm of power broke out, and the black frosting surrounding the streamer slammed wildly. At this instant, the realm of oppression was much stronger than before, whether it was the magic sand realm or the mysterious realm. This power. Jian Wu's eyes had ecstasy that could not be concealed. He hadn't expected that the mystery contained in this Shuangguang Piantianyi would be so arrogant. The streamer phantom just surprised him. And this mysterious realm even surprised him. This is the domain secret technique combining its own magic sand field. It has formed a more terrifying field, which is far stronger than the peak field. You know, the realm of the field is extremely powerful in the battle of the strong. The strength of the domain class treasure can completely allow a practitioner to take the initiative in the fierce battle with his opponent. Like before, when Jian Wushuang and the axe dominated the battle for Shuangguang Xiantianyi at the same time, he immediately cast the magic sand field to limit the speed of the axe dominated. Unfortunately, the axe dominated also had the top-level domain class treasure, two major areas. Impact on each other, no one can limit to whom. However, if he had a stronger field class treasure at that time, then he could suppress the field dominated by the axe, so that his speed and strength were greatly reduced, and he could more easily get the Shuangguang Yotianyi. Keep everyone waiting, sorry. Chapter 3747. The first is more. With the Shuangguang Xingxianyi, the perfect combination of the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand realm, unless in the future I meet the strongest who has the strongest domain class treasure, otherwise I will be able to occupy either absolute initiative. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. The combination of the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand realm is enough to suppress the top realm class treasure. However, compared with the strongest field class arcana, the power should still be worse. But how many people in this star domain have the strongest domain class treasure? After getting Zhuangguang's Tianyi, he not only increased his life-saving ability, but also contained two major secrets, which also greatly improved Jian Wushuang's own strength. Next, Jian Wushuang's goal should be a strongest body armor. In the Red Cloud realm, the birth and contention of Xian Guangxi Tianyi caused a great sensation. This sensation is not only the strongest flying treasure, but also the strength of the sword unparalleled. It was thought that Jian Wushuang could completely suppress Hitomi in the frontal fight, so Hitomi could only run away. This is powerful enough, but he did not expect his true strength to be even stronger. He even dominated Hitomi and Hitomi together. The Lord can suppress it. Especially his body protection ability. Leaving aside the arrogant body, it is simply shocking that the swordsmanship that can block the strongest shot of His Holiness. However, the Red Cloud realm is, after all, a battleground for supreme treasure. Xian Guang's battle for Tianyi was just one of them. As more and more jewels were born, one after another jewel battles began, and the enthusiasm for this matter gradually subsided. Many powerful players in the Red Cloud realm continue to engage in the competition for treasure. Jian Wushuang also continued to wander on the third continent. In a flash, 2,000 years have passed. In the past 2,000 years, the number of treasures born in the Red Cloud world has gradually decreased, but the quality of the layers has gradually increased. Jian Wushuang also received several arcanas during the period, but they were only top-level arcanas. Tianho Xiaoyu just got the news. On the first continent, another strongest treasure was born. It is a magic sword in attack. The power seems to be very good. Is the Excalibur? Sword Wushuang looked, but shook his head afterwards. The strongest soldier in attack, I already have the Huangquan Excalibur, which is enough for my sword skills to perform. Even if I get another one, it is not much. Usefulness. The Lord of Time and Space also nodded. The birth of the Excalibur gave rise to a lot of contention, and it was finally obtained by a good luck higher master. With this Excalibur, this Red Cloud world, the strongest treasure that has been born is already 6. Under normal circumstances, the most powerful arcana that was born each time the Red Cloud realm was turned on, most of them were about 10, and now 6 have been born, and the rest are bound to be few, and these 6 were the strongest arcanas. For are the attacking magic soldiers, one is the strongest flying treasure you get, and one is the strongest treasure, which is dominated by Tianping. The sword did not sink in two-sided color. More than 1,000 years ago, on the second continent, one of the strongest arcana warframes was born. The movement caused by the birth of the strongest arcana warframe was huge, and it also caused a frantic scramble on the second continent. However, the second continent and the third continent where Jian Wushuang are located, after all, are far apart. Although Jian Wushuang got the news, he has waited for him to pass by. Tianping, the 2 mainland continents, dominated the hands. Tianping dominates, but it is one of the leaders of Beihai Palace. Jian Wushuang had dealt with Tianping and also played against him. His strength is probably still above the Supreme Master. The strongest treasure battle gear fell into the hands of this top master, who in this star domain is still eligible to fight again. Jian Wushuang only secretly regrets. On that day, the Pring Master was the top master, and he was also the master of the Beihai Palace. He originally had one of the strongest treasures in his hand. Now he has another one. He is not very useful. He holds the strongest treasure. At most, the battle armor can only be placed in Beihai Palace and used by other masters of Beihai Palace, or it can simply put the strongest treasure in the Jyoti Pavilion and exchange other treasures. If it is another top master, we may also try to get in touch and see if we can exchange the most powerful treasure to the best armor, but we can only get the strongest treasure is Tianping. With the last thing, it is almost impossible for us to want to negotiate again. The master of space and time laughed bitterly. Jian Wushuang shrugged helplessly. His Huangquan Excalibur was obtained from the master of Tianping. At that time, the method he used was not so glorious. It can be said that Tianping had mastered one and let Tianping dominate a free loss. Although Tianping dominates Gu Yan's face and is willing to gamble to lose, he is afraid that he will not be too comfortable. At this time, he also wanted to exchange the strongest treasure of the treasure from Tianping's master, which was obviously impossible. Unless he trades Shuangguang Yedianyi for exchange, the value of Shuangguang Yedianyi is still the strongest treasure of the treasure, and his use for Sword Wushuang is not small. How would Jian Wushuang be willing? Every time the Red Cloud realm is opened, there are many strongest treasures born, but the strongest is the most precious warframe. At most, there will be only one. If you miss that one, I am afraid that it will not be until the next time Red Cloud realm opens there are other strongest treasures born. Jian Wushuang sighed. The Red Cloud realm has been turned on many times in this star field. Everyone knows some potential laws in this period. Like when the Red Cloud realm is opened, about 10 of the strongest treasures are born. At the same time, the 10 strongest treasures of the 10 or so are mostly attacking magic soldiers. As for the treasure armor, flight, suppression, domain, and soul, the strongest treasure is the most powerful. Less born only by chance. And every time the Red Cloud realm is opened, the strongest treasures such as Arcana Warframe, Flight, Repression, Realm, Soul, and more than one of the same type are born. Shuangguang Yantianyi, which was obtained by Jian Wushuang, has been born by him, then in the following time, this Red Cloud world will never be born like the most powerful flying treasure. The same is true of the Arcana battle gear. Chapter 3748. Second more. What's the idea? Confederate Lord asked. I was thinking that there are many strong players in the Red Cloud realm. If we really want to get one of the strongest Arcana Warframes, we may not be pinned on this Red Cloud realm to take the initiative to be born. Maybe we can think of other ways, such as going to hunt a master with the strongest treasure. Sword Wushwangdo. Hunting the Lord? The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space were both shocked, but both groaned as they followed. It is not that they have never thought about hunting the masters with the strongest treasure, but they are just thinking about it. You have to know that the power of the dominant level is extremely powerful, and most of them have a strong means of life-saving. Even if it is the simplest primary master, it is extremely difficult to hunt. Like Jian Wushuang, Shen Shinto, and the Lord of Time and Space, the three of them have killed the Earth Saint Star to threaten to persecute the Earth Saint Star. The Lord of the Stars did indeed feel the great threat at that time, and then bowed his head. However, this is also mainly because Jian Wushuang did not really kill them, and did not really push the Earth Lord, or the Earth Lord revealed the strongest whole card, and it may not be impossible to fight. Moreover, Jian Wushuang they were directly killing the old nest of the Divine Star Lord. The Divine Star Lord was too self-confident at the beginning, and he did not know the true strength of Jian Wushuang. They fled without the first time, which gave them a chance. But if it's an ordinary master in a place like Hangyunji, there is a hint of vigilance in their hearts. As long as they sense that other masters in the surrounding area are approaching, they will be alert for the first time, and if 2 or 3 masters approach at the same time, that master will definitely not hesitate to retreat, and will not give you the chance to kill him. It's too difficult to hunt the Lord. The Lord of Time and Space shook his head slightly. Only hunting ordinary primary masters, you have to find a great opportunity, not to mention that we are going to hunt or kill the master with the strongest treasure, which has the strongest treasure. Masters, even primary masters, are extremely powerful in body protection. Even if the top masters are all at their best, it is almost impossible to kill them. Yes, the master with the strongest treasure is really hard to kill. Even if the top master takes the shot himself, I am afraid that he will not have a lot of confidence to kill a master with the strongest treasure. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He naturally knows that it is difficult to kill the master with the strongest treasure, but he also has a certain confidence in his current strength. 2 people I have played against the pupil with the strongest treasure battle gear, and I tried my best to hurt him. At that time, I wanted to kill him. It was really difficult, but now, it may not be a trace maybe. Jian Wushuangdo. Oh! The Lord of the Cut Heaven Alliance and the Lord of Space and Time both looked the same. Jian Tunho, how confident are you? Asked the leader of the Celestial Alliance. About 40%, if you two can come and help me together, then you have 60% certainty. Jian Wushuangdo. 60%? The eyes of the Lord of the Celestial Alliance and the Lord of Time and Space were all on. It's too difficult for them to kill a master who has the strongest armor of the treasure warrior. Originally, even if the sword was unparalleled, they could try it, but now they have enough. 60%. Lu Qing is sure, you can try it, but I don't know who we want to use as a hunting target. Is it the pupil? Yes, just him. Jian Wushuang had a goal long ago. In this star field, there are not many masters with the strongest treasures, and most of them are top masters or powerful masters. Master of that level, Jian Wushuang certainly has no idea of hunting. And the elementary master who has the strongest treasure warframe, Jian Wushuang knows, there is only one pupil. Moreover, this pupil is originally a lonely and widowed person, and his behavior is not very good. He usually disregards his identity and shoots at the masters of some rules at will. After these long years, he killed the rules in the 3 battlefields. The Lord does not know how many there are, and there are many offensive forces. It's just that the pupil himself is strong, and he has the strongest armor of armor, and few people can do nothing about him. If such a master, Jian Wushuang, would go to hunt and kill, even if the matter was revealed, it would not offend anyone. On the contrary, many people would have expected him to kill the pupil. This pupil is indeed the best target for hunting. We shot. No matter if he was killed or not, no one would say much afterwards, but the pupil himself is not weak. It is extremely strong, and it seems that life-saving means are not weak. Master of Space and Time groaned. I've taught him his strength, so don't worry about it. The key is his life-saving method. Last time I played against him, although it forced him to perform a life-saving method, but that may not be all his cards, so we have to if you hunt, you still have to be fully prepared. Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. Yes, to kill a master, first of all you have to give him no chance to escape. Time and space, with your accomplishments in time and space, can you do that? Asked the leader of the Cut Sky Alliance. At best, I can guarantee that he cannot escape by any means of time and space or treasures, and completely imprison that space and time. The main hall of time and space. This alone is not enough. Even if time and space are banned, his life-saving means can be used to instantaneously erupt far faster than ordinary masters. Chou Tianmeng said, Don't worry about this, I have Shuangguang Yi Tianyi in hand, and he is not expected to be as fast as me. Jian Wushuang said, A joke Shuangguang Sun Tianyi is here, and he bursts out faster than the top masters in an instant. He doesn't believe that the pupil can pass him faster. But even so, we still have to be prepared for anything, such as arranging some special matrices in advance, or using the repression class treasure to suppress the void so that he cannot escape at all. In the case of repressing the class treasure, Xian Shen has a pinnacle of repression class in his hands, and the grade is very high. Would you like him to send it in? No. Jian Wushuang said with a smile, The two must have forgotten that I had one of the strongest suppressive class treasures in the world in the beginning, and that strongest suppressive class treasure was still in my hands. Do you mean Shanhesh? Chapter 3749. Only one more today. Picture of Shanhesh, which is the strongest suppressive class treasure left by Xuani, and has been in the sword without hands. But because of the high level of the Shanhe Society's map, Jian Wushuang has not been able to exert its strongest power, but this Shanhe Society's map has always been one of the strongest cards of Jian Wushuang. Until the last moment, it will not easily cast. Now, as long as he can kill that pupil, Jian Wushuang does not mind using this whole card. The map of the Shanhe Society is indeed the strongest suppressive type of treasure, but the threshold for the display of this treasure is extremely high. Jian Tianho, you can now show all the power of the Shanhe Society? Of course all power can't be achieved, but as long as some power is exerted, it will be enough to suppress primary masters like Hitomi, making him unable to escape. Jian Wushuangdo. It's enough to be able to do this. The leader of Zhetian League nodded. Since that's the case, it shouldn't be too late. I and the space and time immediately rushed towards the third continent. In addition, I was told to go to the Star Palace in the third continent, and the strongest of my 3 major free leagues, figure out where the pupil is. As soon as the 3 of us arrive, they start immediately. Row. Jian Wushuang and the Lord of Time and Space both nodded. Immediately after the interruption of the communication, the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space immediately hurried over to the third continent. Although the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space are on different continents, it took only less than a day to reach the third continent at the speed of the dominant class powerhouse. Already gathered. At the same time, the orders of the 3 of them have been conveyed. The Star Palace and the 3 powerful freedom alliances in the third continent have begun to pay attention to the position of the pupil. Mr. Hitomi, after all, is a real master, and he has the strongest armor of the treasure armor. He almost walks sideways on this third continent. There is naturally no worries about acting. It is still very easy to find his place. 10 days later, the third continent, in the red void. A sword was born out of thin air. This sword is a top-level treasure with extraordinary value. Naturally, it attracted many strong players to fight for it. In this battle, the blood ancestors of Tianzu Dojo from one of the 3 major free alliances, with great luck, took this sword directly into their hands. Although there are many rulers around, the number is not large, and the strength is not too overbearing. Seeing that the sword has fallen into the hands of the blood race, they can only give up and not rob, but the blood race is holding it. When the sword is about to leave this void, A terrible breath came suddenly. Come, it is Hitomi. You, call out the sword that you just had, and this seat will spare you. The pupil master stood in the void, overlooking the blood ancestor, and the atmosphere of the dominating level directly pressed on the blood ancestor, making the blood ancestor's body shape uncontrollable shocked. The blood ancestor's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Master Tong, an ordinary top-level treasure, isn't it that you, the dignified master, should lower your status yourself? The blood ancestor said lowly. Less nonsense, hand it over, or you will die. Itachi stared coldly. Although the blood ancestors were unwilling, but because of the strength of the pupil in front of him, he did not dare to disobey, so he had to take the sword out and give it to him. Count on you. Mr. Hitomi sneered, turned his sword into the ring and turned away. But he didn't notice that after he left, Zuiza's grim and resentful look. The Lord of Time and Space, I have met the pupil of Tong and my position is. The blood ancestor has sent a message to the Lord of Time and Space. Above the void, Hitomi moved slowly forward, with a touch of pride in the corner of his mouth. The ant just wasn't too stupid. If he didn't hand it in or just hit the seat a little bit in the opening, this seat would have a reason to kill him directly. Hitomi sneered. Despite his it's just an ordinary ruler of the early divine realm, but if you can kill, you can also relieve this seat a little. Mr. Hitomi just wanted to kill the blood ancestor. It wasn't because there was something in the blood ancestors that attracted him, nor was it for a top-level treasure sword. The real reason is that the blood ancestors came from the early world of the gods and came from the three major free alliances. Mr. Hitomi has also received news before that he knows that Jian Wushuang is not only a person of the Star Palace, but also has an extraordinary relationship with the three freedom alliances of the Taichu divine realm. Of course, there are complaints in my heart. The beheading of a ruler from the three major free alliances, although the pupil can't be completely relieved, but at least he can be slightly more comfortable. But unfortunately, the blood ancestor just surrendered the treasure too fast, and did not give him the opportunity and excuse to shoot. He is a master, and it is enough to force a ruler to surrender the treasure. If the opponent has already surrendered the treasure and he still kills the other, then it is too much, so it will arouse a lot of resentment from many of this star domain. So he just didn't do it directly. Well, don't worry, there are so many strong people in the Star Palace and the three free alliances in this Red Cloud world. In the future, there will be opportunities to meet the strong people in the Star Palace and the three free alliances, and then look for opportunities. Just kill a few more. Hitomi sneered. He has been in this star for so long, he has always wanted to do whatever he wants. With his strength, coupled with his life-saving hole cards, he almost ate no food in this star field. But before that fierce battle with Yu Jinshuang, he not only ate but also lost a big face. The dignified dominion would be run away by the Wolverines killed by a ruler, which made him a joke for a while, and of course he wanted to revenge Jian Wushuang. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang's strength is extremely strong. He can't retaliate against Jian Wushuang. Lord of the Blood Sword, this place can't retaliate against you, but it can retaliate against those under your control. How can you help me? Tong Zhu laughed heartily. But at this moment, within the scope of the pupil's perception of the soul power, a familiar breath suddenly appeared. The appearance of this breath made Hitomi look instantly. This breath is the Lord of the Blood Sword? The pupil's face immediately became dignified. The Lord of the Blood Sword came to the void near this seat, just passing by? Hitomi did not doubt at first. After all, Jian Wushuang has been rushing on the third continent. Although the third continent is quite large, after all, it is normal to encounter each other halfway. Chapter 3750. The first is more. Upon discovering that Jian Wushuang appeared within the scope of his soul perception, Hitomi's expression immediately became dignified. At the same time, the special treasure that has been hidden in him has once again revealed an unprecedented desire. Sure enough, as long as the Lord of the Blood Sword appears, the baby in this seat will be extremely agitated. It seems that the Lord of the Blood Sword does indeed have something that the treasure is desperate for, unfortunately. Shin, however, began to appease the treasure. Baby, don't worry, I will definitely find a way to get the thing in the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword in the future, but now, let's go subtle first. Hitomi shook his head, and had no intention of meeting Jianshuang at all. After all, Jian Wushuang's strength is far stronger than him, and the two sides have already settled their grievances. At the beginning, he was fleeing by the sword Wushuang's. Now that I am alone, naturally I dare not face the sword with Wushuang, so I can only choose to retreat. It is ridiculous to say that a dignified master wants to avoid a ruler proactively. The Lord of the Blood Sword, let you be proud for a while, this seat will definitely get back in the future. Mr. Hitomi held his hands tightly, and his heart was resentful. He has deliberately bypassed the sword unparalleled. But soon he realized that although he had taken the initiative to bypass, the Lord of the Blood Sword also changed direction at the same time, and hurried directly towards his position. The Lord of the Blood Sword can have the strength of a higher master, and his soul perception ability is certainly not weak. This seat can sense his presence, and he should also be able to sense me. Now this seat is actively bypassing, he instead of leaning directly towards this seat? Hitomi's face was a bit ugly. He was a master, and he had taken the initiative to avoid a ruler, but he didn't want the ruler, but he persisted and rushed towards him. Although the heart was extremely angry, but the pupil did not mean to have a double-sided pair with the sword. He continued to change direction and accelerated his speed. However, when he changed direction, Jian Wushuang also changed immediately. After he accelerated his speed, Jian Wushuang also accelerated. It is clear that he is completely following him. Lord of the Blood Sword, what are you going to do? When Hitomi was furious, he directly consciously shouted, Master Tong, I'm sorry that you and I have met two people before. They are considered acquaintances. Now I have encountered them for the third time on this third continent. Closer to humanity. Jian Wushuang smiled. This seat is not human? Tong Tong's mouth twitched slightly. This seat has nothing to do with you, nor can I greet you. This seat is leaving now. Don't follow me. What's the hurry? How good is it to sit down and talk? Jian Wushuang smiled, and at the same time his body speed accelerated again. His speeding up immediately caused the pupil to be vigilant, and his speed began to erupt immediately. This pupil is really vigilant. Jian Wushuang shook his head secretly, but then he was relieved. Yes, this is after all in the Red Cloud realm, the fight for the killing is too crazy, and he knows my strength well, even though I never thought I could kill him, but knew that I could easily beat him and dare not meet with me. It's normal. After all, he was beaten up by me the last time. After the same encounter, he didn't want to meet the second time. Jian Wushuang smiled from the bottom of his heart, but suddenly his expression moved and he said, Master Tong, don't leave in a hurry, you won't hide it. I came here deliberately to ask about it. What's the matter? Although Hitomi replied, he did not stop at all. That's it. I heard that you had a chance to get a special treasure by chance, and that treasure was not of little use to me, so I wanted to talk to you. Jian Wushuangdo. Special treasure? When the pupil heard this, his vigilance skyrocketed. He does have an extremely special treasure on his body, and that is his biggest secret. There is absolutely no second person in this world who knows it. The reason why he has arrogantly dealt with some rules in this territory regardless of his identity over the years is largely because of that special treasure. Now when I hear Jian Wushuang talking about special treasures, the pupil thinks of it for the first time, which is the treasure in his own hands. But the question is, how did the Lord of the Blood Sword know that he had that treasure? Or is it not the special treasure that the Lord of the Blood Sword said? Master of the Blood Sword, I don't know what the special treasure you are talking about. Hitomi directly. Do you not know, Master Tong? Impossible, but I know very well that the treasure is indeed in your hands. Jian Wushuang pretended to have a confident look, and then said, Hitomi, in my opinion you just stop for a while, let me find a place to talk about it. The pupil's main gaze sinks slightly. He didn't dare to face Jian Wushuang face to face, but what Jian Wushuang had just said made him hesitant. He is not sure if the special treasure mentioned by Jian Wushuang is his treasure. If it is true, the existence of the treasure is known by the owner of the Blood Sword. Once spread, it will definitely be a big trouble for him. So he also figured out what the special treasure called by Jian Wushuang was. Okay, I promise to talk to you. As for the place, you don't have to choose. It's here. I won't go. You shouldn't come any closer. You and I are separated by such a distant void. Communication of consciousness is just fine. Tong the main positive road. Is conscious communication? Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, yes. Speaking, Jian Wushuang stopped. The pupil's figure was also paused in the void. The two were separated by almost 70,000 miles of void just so far apart. Seeing that the pupil's body really stopped, Jian Wushuang's face didn't move, but he smiled secretly. Naturally, he did not know what special treasures the pupil had received. The reason why he said this was to stop the pupil first, so that the master of time and space hidden in the surrounding void could be conveniently arranged. And Jian Wushuang is very clear. The primary master, who is as good as the pupil and has the strongest treasure of the treasure, must have got some special opportunities or good fortunes, and most of his hands have also got some special treasures. This is very normal. Not to mention a master, most rule masters have got some special treasures. Jian Wushuang only said that they are special treasures, and didn't say which one was clear. On the contrary, the pupil master would be more cautious, and dare not despise his words. Sure enough, Hitomi was fooled. His body has stopped.